Okay, I think we've got everything set up. Where's my... Oh, there it is. Okay, camera's up. Let's see. Okay. We have a couple of articles. I did not do a This Week in Tech last or yesterday because we were doing the threadripper build. So I think we'll do it today. And we are streaming. We are using the threadripper system. So I am testing threadripper. We're going to be testing games. Why is the stream... The stream title was wrong. I had to fix it at the last second this weekend. Okay, games over. Okay, so at least the Notify Me has the correct title. Because it was wrong. I forgot to update that. I had to scramble to get everything set up. I had to get my OBS stuff set up. Afterburner need to get set up. It doesn't have... The version of Afterburner that I'm using doesn't have any of the hooks for Threadripper other than the CPU utilization. So when we test games, it's going to not be able to show us stuff like CPU temperature. But other than that, everything should work the same as it was on Ryzen. So basically what I did was I pulled the PC that you can see behind me. This is the 7950X 3D with the 4090. You can kind of see the 4090 Founders Edition in there. It's like right there behind me. So I pulled that out, put this Threadripper system in, and we're going to be testing this just to make sure everything is stable. So we're going to be testing a bunch of random games, but I also wanted to do some tech news articles that I thought were interesting. We'll do this really quick, and then we'll probably do the game test, because I think that's what most people want to see. Even though, again, this platform is not meant for gaming. I think the reviews are pretty clear. But that being said, you can game on it, as we will show. But you really want to be playing at 4K, and you want to be using a high-end GPU, and you want to be at least 1440p, if not 4K. Because why? Yeah. Why not? Okay, so this first article here is about Game Pass. For some reason, I don't know, I saw this headline, Game Pass on PlayStation 5 and Switch not in the plans. What? My first reaction to this was, who ever thought that Game Pass would ever go to PlayStation 5 or the Switch? I never imagined this ever being a thing. So the fact that this even came up is quite surprising, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this title. The title itself is so weird, and then it says that there were scattered hints that Microsoft would like to bring their Game Pass service to their competitors. I don't ever remember getting any sort of indication that that was the plan. This just seems like some kind of BS article. Like, they asked Phil Spencer, he's like, I'll start by saying we have no plans to bring Game Pass to PlayStation or Nintendo. It's not in our plans. The thing I want to be focused on is how do we continue to innovate for people who've made the commitment to our hardware platform, meaning Xbox. And how do we continue to make sure that they feel great about their investment in what we've built? So I agree with Phil on this. Like, I don't understand where the idea of Game Pass going to PlayStation or Switch ever being a thing. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I just thought this was a weird article, so I just wanted to point out, maybe somebody watching the stream might have more insight into why this was possibly a thing that was ever conceived by Microsoft or Phil Spencer or just anybody in general, because I never thought this would ever happen. So I'm not surprised in the slightest by his response here. So, all right. So that brings us to the next article. Global PC shipments expected to hit 267 million units in 2024. Slow news week. Yeah, there's not a whole lot. Imagine playing Flight Sim on Switch. How? How? It's too small. How? 260p? Yeah. Oh. When they were talking about acquiring Nintendo. Oh, well, I feel like the idea of Microsoft acquiring Nintendo, that was. I don't know if that was meant to be a joke or if that was just some like a slip of the tongue that never actually meant to be 100% serious. I don't know. I remember that there's talk of Microsoft acquiring Nintendo, and I was thinking that's never going to happen. Yeah, my first reaction to that was that that's never going to happen. That would be that would be that'd be crazy. Like Nintendo would have to be extremely desperate, and the thing is, Nintendo would kind of have to be in decline. Has Microsoft ever purchased a company that was on the upward trajectory, we should say, in terms of success? Have they ever done that? Purchased a company that was on the way up just to have the company go down and just die? Like, I don't think they've done that in a while. Because even when they purchased Skype, I'm just thinking back to their large acquisitions that kind of stood the test of time. They purchased Skype, but Skype was never really. Even at its peak, Skype was never really outstanding. There were things that were already out there that were similar, and there were other specific niche apps like Ventrilo and TeamSpeak that just did what they did better than Skype. So I don't know. And then Microsoft just kind of Skype just failed to innovate further and just kind of faded into obscurity, really. I mean, it's still around. Skype is still better than modern day Well, Teams is just Teams, though. Skype was exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, well, it's still around, but it's not, like, what I don't understand is, didn't Microsoft want to buy Discord at one point? Somebody wanted to buy Discord, but then either the owners like refused, or I don't know what the story was. I recall Microsoft wanting to buy Discord, or some large multinational company wanted to buy Discord a few years ago. I think it was Microsoft. I'm pretty sure it was Microsoft. I can't think of any other name that comes to mind. So, yeah, that this story makes me think of those acquisitions or those attempted acquisitions. Microsoft did, then Sony threw big investment money at them. Sony invested into Discord, and then Discord then implemented support with PlayStation. Although Discord, I haven't looked into it, but I know Discord has PlayStation Network integration, but I don't know how Discord functions on PlayStation, on the actual PlayStation platform. I haven't looked into that. But you can integrate your PSN account with Skype, like, or not Skype, with Discord, so that, for example, if you're playing a game on PlayStation 5 or whatever, PlayStation 4, it doesn't really matter. You're playing a game on PlayStation Network, Discord can show that you're in that game. Just like if you're on PC and you load up a game and then Discord tells you, it broadcasts what game you're playing, like your status. PlayStation has that too. So like if you're playing, say, like Spider-Man 2, for example, you could be playing Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 5. It's an exclusive, or Horizon Forbidden West, and Discord can tell people that, like, it can broadcast your status that you're playing Horizon Forbidden West. Because I linked mine to test it out back when I first learned that it actually had PSN integration, and I was playing, like, I think it was Horizon Forbidden West, And there were so many people on Discord that kept messaging me, "How are you playing Horizon?" They were like, "How are you playing that game? Is it out? Is it out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's out. It's on PlayStation. What are you talking about?" It's like, "How are you playing the game?" I'm like, "I'm playing the game on PlayStation." So, so yeah. So I guess that's what the big investment money that Sony threw at them was. But yeah, they definitely needed that. Sony, I still think Sony needs to make a Linux based console, or a, I should say, a Linux based PC that integrates PlayStation into it as their next kind of console slash gaming platform. Because I really think Sony, like, instead of making a PlayStation 6, they should make a Linux. Basically, you know how Steam did the Steam Deck, and then AMD made those chipsets like the Van Gogh for Steam. But then there was all those like APU chipsets that companies like Asus and Lenovo bought up, and Asus made the ROG Ally. You know, those kind of handheld devices. I think what Sony should do, they can use either something like that, or they should take it a step further, and rather than just making like a handheld device, they should just make a Linux desktop. Like, just make a Linux, make their own distro, put their skin on it. Basically, do what Google, because the way I have always looked at Linux, Google's Android operating system is kind of like Linux, sort of, because when you think about all those different phone manufacturers for Android, you've got the Samsung phones, used to have LG, Sony even has their own Xperia phone line. I currently use a Sony Xperia as my new daily driver smartphone. So, you know, the point is they could do the same thing with Linux, like ROG Ally, Steam Deck, all this stuff. Steam is, over time, if more traction develops with the Steam OS sort of thing, I think Steam could become a real big competitor in the long run to Sony and Microsoft. And more so Sony, because Sony's currently kind of, in my opinion, Sony is boxed in to this traditional console platform, and it's like a 7 to 10 year life cycle. And I feel like, to me, the trends when it comes to gaming are moving in two different, like, it's diverging away from consoles in the living room, and more so mobile and like desktop, like blockbuster AAA on the desktop experience, on the PC experience, or the PC platform. Because the thing is, you look at outside factors that Sony and Microsoft and Steam even, and Nintendo, they have no control over how the outside influencers, I should say, or just external network effects change the industry, change the gaming industry over time. Like, the best example that I can give you guys are the live streamers that just stream games all day. Like the Twitch streamers, the Kick people, the YouTube clips, all that stuff. Like, that whole subculture of the video gaming world, which is actually very disliked by a lot of people that aren't into video gaming. But the reality is, a lot of those quote unquote, I hate to use the phrase, social influencers are, like, you think about it, any random, like, high school kid or college kid or young adult or whoever, they're going to watch these personalities and they're going to be influenced by them. And really what ends up happening is they see these live streamers playing XYZ AAA game, or maybe it's just some Fortnite or League of Legends or whatever. That doesn't really matter. I'm talking about like AAA games like Cyberpunk, the latest and greatest games that are coming out now and next year. They see them playing them on stream, and they're always playing them typically on the PC. In some instances, they're playing on PlayStation 5. Rarely are they playing on Xbox. Realistically, the only time I've ever seen anybody playing a game on PlayStation 5 as a live streamer is if it's a console exclusive, like a timed exclusive, like Spider-Man 2. That's the best example. That's the most recent example. But, Horizon Forbidden West was another example. Uh, yeah, it's just like I remember when PlayStation 5 launched, there were a lot of popular Twitch streamers. Like, prime example, Asmongold. I'll just use Asmongold as an example. When the PlayStation 5 launched, so many people had a hard time getting one, and Asmon was someone who didn't even care about console gaming. Like, he didn't even have. I don't think he had any of the previous PlayStations. Maybe he had a PS2 or something from way back. But he just, because he's an influencer, he just magically had a PlayStation 5 on launch day. And guess what? He was able to live stream Demon Souls Remake on launch day. And everyone was watching people play Demon Souls, people trying to do, like, Lobos Jr. doing, like, blind playthrough runs, speed run, prep, all that kind of stuff. So everybody was into the PlayStation 5 because the live streamers were all showcasing games like Miles Morales, Demon Souls, all the launch exclusives, and they were streaming, showing exclusive console footage on the stream platform. So that built up a lot of hype for PS5, and that's why PS5 was like scalped for literally years. Couple that with the supply shortages, that's basically how it was. So I just think that Sony is in a situation where they really need to kind of pivot outside of the console space. In my mind, they need to either do something like Steam Deck, or I don't think Steam Deck is the right answer, though. I think what they're trying to do with this PlayStation Portable thingy that they have recently, which remotes into a PS5 and streams a game from PS5, I really think they need to make a PC with their own Linux distro, just like Steam, essentially, and put their little skin on it so it looks like a console UI, but if they want to go into the full desktop UI, they can. And I think that could be a huge disruptor, because if Sony can popularize Linux desktops for the home user, that is a massive threat. And if they can pull that off in any degree of success, that is a massive disruptor to Microsoft with Windows, and that could be a way to reinvigorate Sony's brand in the gaming industry. I feel like that's what they need to do. No, Shadow, I'm talking about like next generation. I'm thinking like PlayStation 6. I'm not talking about PlayStation 5 on PC. I'm talking about a brand new platform, new hardware that is basically running a Linux operating system. So it's like a gaming PC, but you're gaming on Linux, not Windows. And Sony has the PlayStation games on this new platform. That's what I'm saying. I really think that's what they need to do. Because what I see, because you guys see all these articles, PC shipments, gaming industry is growing, all this stuff, despite everybody has been saying the PC market is dead, the desktop market is dead, and yet it never actually dies. And I see a lot of the youth now is very, like, they really want gaming PCs. Like, the thing is, they might start out on an Xbox One or a PS4, and then they're like, they'll tell their parents, "Hey, I want like a gaming I want a PC for my birthday, or I want a PC for Christmas." Like, these are the sort of things. Because I see a lot of this, because when I go into Micro Center, especially this time of year, you'll see a lot of people coming into Micro Center, and they're shopping, and they're building PCs, or they're trying to put a PC together, or shop for PC parts for their kid, or someone in their family or whatever. And it's all gaming centric. Like, that's the reason why they're there. Not for Threadripper, not for AI. No, They're wanting to buy their fancy RGB RAM so they can run it with their fancy RGB GPU and RGB fans and all this excessive stuff that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, but that's what they want. The original Steam OS is available, but yeah. Yeah, but I think I'm just saying in general, like Sony needs to jump in on this. Like Sony needs to get into the PC platform. Like you can see that they've been trying to test the waters by making more of their exclusive games available on PC, like on Steam and Epic Games. You know, we've been seeing this slowly happen. Horizon Zero Dawn is on PC. You know, Horizon Forbidden West is coming to PC. The Spider-Man games are now on PC. Spider-Man 2 will eventually come to PC, etc. So, but I think that they need to, like, rather than just put their games on Steam, that's not a good thing for them long term. They don't really want to do that because that's going to slowly, you know, turn them into Sega. They're going to turn into a Sega if they do that in the gaming market. So it's like, no, they need to, like, if they want to stay in there, they need some kind of hardware. Sony, let's look at it this way. Sony is a hardware company first, software company second. Microsoft is a software company first, hardware company second. So they're like the complete opposites of each other. Microsoft makes Windows. That's like their main product. And then Microsoft Office. You know, like that's it. And then they have other things. They have Azure Cloud, but you know, that's like enterprise stuff. That's like business to business. You know? So at the end of the day, it's all software. Microsoft isn't making the server. They're not making they're not making the CPU or the GPU. Microsoft doesn't do that. Sony, on the other hand, what does Sony do? Oh, Sony makes really nice cameras. Sony makes cameras that go in smartphones, cameras that go like in a lot of things. They make a lot of like hardware, physical things that you can pick up with your hands, not a bunch of software stuff like Microsoft. So they're the complete opposite of each other. And I think that in order for Sony to maintain a position of leadership in the gaming industry, they have to stay true to their strengths, and their strengths are in hardware. So they need to make some kind of Linux gaming PC as their next gaming platform, not a PlayStation 6. That's all I'm saying. Sony also moved the PlayStation to x86 to easier develop in general. Yeah, but the thing is, they shouldn't just be porting the games. Because, guys, they don't want Steam to be the winner here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to give your competitor your stuff, and yeah, you'll be making money off of the sale of those games, but it's not the same. You're giving up your position. Like, think about it like this. When you think of the big juggernauts in the gaming industry, do you think of Sega? Does anybody think Sega is a gaming juggernaut? Does anyone consider Sega big and powerful? Do you remember Dreamcast? Remember Saturn? Sony is on the trajectory to become like Sega unless they do something. That's what I'm saying. It should be more simple than dealing with PS2 and PS3 to PC. I'm not following you. The original Steam. No, Sony needs to make a Linux gaming platform. They need to do something like Steam did with SteamOS. Because the thing is, everybody knows that consumers are able to afford expensive hardware because Nvidia proved it. Nvidia literally proved it. Now, it's not like everybody's able to buy 4090s. That's not what I'm saying. But Nvidia proved that you can hike the price of your entire product stack, and people are still going to buy your products. You're still going to get away with it. So, what that means is back when Sony infamously charged $600 for the PS3 at launch for the 60 gigabyte original, the public thought that was outrageous, and it really hurt them at the time. But the thing is, the times are different now. If they want to charge $700 for a premium console, I think they could do it. Like, as long as it can deliver the experience and they can market that in a way that it delivers on that gaming experience, I think they could get away with selling a $700 gaming platform. And they could do like the base, just the tower, is $700. But if you want like the other stuff, like the monitor, the mouse, they could sell like their own because they have InZone. They have InZone as their gaming peripheral brand. They've got monitors, they've got headsets. They could easily add mice and keyboards to that. Sony recently released PS Plus as well. That has nothing to do with this though. That's a subscription based service. That all they did with that. PS Plus has been around for years. PS Plus has been around since like 2010 or 2009. That isn't even new. All they did recently was they changed the tier system. They added they broke it out into like 3 different tiers. That's all they did. I'm not sure you realize that a Sony PC would not be a PC. It would be a lockdown platform. It would make no sense. They don't have to do it that way, Shadow. You're assuming they're going to do it that way. The original SteamOS is garbage. Yeah, well, the original SteamOS was from like 10 years ago. They don't have to do it that way. See, but yeah, you're kind of assuming they are the way they are, which I mean, you have a point, but they could think outside the box. The question is, will they? Okay. So anyway, now on to PC shipments themselves. So everybody's talking about all this AI. I'm so tired of hearing about AI. Like recently, everything I've heard about is all AI. So it's funny, like the micro center people, the salespeople. When I bought the threadripper yesterday, the micro center people, the salespeople, all kind of gathered around me because I went in there like really early, and they didn't have anything to do because when the store opens on a Thursday, there's not a lot of people around. So and they had like five salespeople with nothing to do. So and I came in, I'm like, I want to buy a threadripper. Who wants to sell me so they all were like, wait, what? You want to? I was the first person actually to buy threadripper from my local micro center. So I was world's first. I don't know about world's first, but I was like the first. And they showed me this thing. It was like a $17,000 PC build that they all put all this expensive hardware together. It was like the most expensive Threadripper Pro and like a bunch of, well, I don't even know if it was the most expensive Threadripper Pro, but I think it was at least a 64 core or something. No, I think it was 96 core. But anyway, it was some stupid amount of money, and they named it like the ultimate AI startup company customer or some nonsense like that. And they're like, if someone's wanting to build a PC for AI, like this is what to recommend. And it's like $17,000 PC. And I kind of looked at the list that they put together and I was like, yeah, the reality is this is actually kind of what these AI startups are looking for. The only thing that they're missing is the professional, like the not counting Grace Hopper, because that's like a separate thing. That's like a server thing. But like, they don't have the really expensive well, they don't even call them quadros anymore. Like the RTX, whatever. I don't even know. Like Nvidia was so dumb to get rid of the quadro brand. It's so stupid just calling the thing RTX 6000 Ada or A6000 Ada generation, whatever they call it now. It's so dumb. They should never have gotten rid of quadro. Oh man. PC shipments received positive figures in Q3 2024. What is this Q3 2024? We aren't even in 2024. Oh, this is market research. The global PC market set to return to growth in 2024 with PC shipments. RTX 6008. Yeah, I know. Yeah, see, they name it. Yeah, they just changed the name, but it's like not consistent. You know what I'm saying? It's not consistent. So what are they? They're just gonna use the generation. They're gonna use the The engineering code name is what they're going to use from now on to name the professional products. They're literally just going to call the thing whatever the generation is. So if it's Ada based, they're just going to call it Ada. Okay, so they're expecting PC shipments to rise by 8% next year. So apparently PC shipments were way down last year and they kind of went up this year. Oh, I know why they went down last year. The reason why they went down last year was because that was on the tail end of everybody who wanted to do work from home PC builds because they were stuck in their house or their apartment because of the whole human malware thing that happened in like 2020 and 2021. They had already upgraded or they somehow managed to get their all the stuff they needed so they didn't need to buy anything in 2022. That's largely the reason why it was down. I don't know. I mean, this to me just looks like a hardware refresh cycle. And it's like you're either in the group that did the upgrade during the pandemic. So in 2022, 3 and maybe 4, you wouldn't be up for an upgrade. So it wouldn't be until like 2025. So that's kind of why it looks like a business cycle. It looks like a business cycle sine wave. People were returning systems after work from home as well. I don't know if they're returning systems. I think they just weren't. They weren't interested in buying hardware. Yeah, I don't think they're returning systems. I don't think you can return a system after using it for like a whole year and a half. They predict 2024 is progressive for PC markets. The global PC market is on the road to recovery and will return to 2019 shipment levels by next year. The impact of artificial intelligence. See, the thing that no one's talking about is what about the impact of crypto? Like crypto happened in these years where PC shipments were really high. AI only happened in the kind of the second half of this year, or it became mainstream in the second half of this year. It was definitely starting out in the beginning of this year, but it was not really mainstream until now. So, these projections could be way off if crypto takes off again. Like this could be under forecasting the reality. Like if AI continues to maintain what they're projecting, then if crypto happens again, then it will just actually go even higher. If that actually happens. I'm not saying it will, but it's technically kind of due to happen sometime in the second half of next year. It just follows that cycle. Somebody somewhere is going to invent something like the guy who invented Ethereum, and it's just going to take off and get enough people on board, and then we're just going to repeat that entire cycle again for like a year and a half. That's going to be interesting because I think if crypto comes back, crypto never really affected. Well, did it affect the super high end? I don't think it did. Crypto mostly affected like the middle the middle market for the GPUs. Like the 70 class GPUs and the 60 Ti class GPUs. Those were the ones that were affected the most, or those are the ones that a lot of crypto amateur startups got into, and they like bought up those. Like people tried to use 3080s and they were good at mining, but they were too power hungry and they were very expensive. So it was a very steep investment compared to going with like 3060 Ti or something. It also even raised the prices of that. Yeah, crypto raised the prices of that? Yeah, it did. Well, I don't know. See, the thing about that, I don't know if crypto raised the price of those super high end GPUs. I kind of think it was the supply shortages. I really think it was the supply shortages that made the ultra high end GPUs hard to get. Not crypto, because most of the people that were buying most people that were trying to mine crypto or mine Ethereum, they were buying 3070, 3060 Ti, and if it was an AMD card, it was like the 6700 non XT and the 6700 XT. Like it was typically those cards. And I guess the 6800 if they could get one, but the 6800 was so elusive during the supply shortages. So, yeah, it was mostly the middle. It was the middle of the market that the crypto people like went all over, because remember the you guys have you guys forgotten the 3060 Ti was over $900 during 2021. You can look it up. 3060 Ti retailed for over $900 in 2021. Like 2 years ago, 3060 Ti was over $900. See? So because that was because of the crypto. Like the crypto made all the middle cards really expensive, and then the supply shortages made everything really expensive. Yeah, and I know it went for 2 grand at one point. 3080 was like $2,000 on eBay by scalpers during the pandemic. But that's more so because of the shortage than crypto. I mean, crypto did play a role, but crypto did not affect 3080 the way it affected like 3060 Ti and 3070 pricing. That stuff got way out of hand. 3070 was going for like $1,100. I remember that. The 6900 XT was always like $1,500. And then the 6800 XT was like 1200, like most of the time. Those GPUs, even though they're still around, the vast majority of Ampere and RDNA 2's lifespan was spent on elevated price levels. Like they spent most of their lifespan selling way above MSRP, because you had 2021 and you had the first half of 2022, and the prices only went back to normal in the second half of last year. So, and guess what happened in the second half of last year? 4090 launches, RDNA 3 launches. See what I mean? So by the time those GPUs, the previous generation GPUs went back to normal, they were already obsolete in the public's eye, because the new generation was already on its way in. So, yeah, that's gonna be like, it's funny. 30 series and RDNA 2 are gonna be remembered in history as the lost generation, the lost generation of hardware. That was the generation that you couldn't get for most of their relevant lifespan at normal prices. I mean, yeah, you can get them now. You can get them now because there's so much oversupply of them. But they're not really the most relevant option now. So that's the case. I mean, like I just proved my point. Like, there's people who are always asking, like, should I get a 3060 Ti? Like there was someone in the chat yesterday when I was doing the threadripper build who came into the chat and asked if they should buy a 3060 Ti or not, because their 4770K Haswell might bottleneck, or 4790K Devil's Canyon, which is basically Haswell, would bottleneck their GPU. And the answer was, yeah, don't buy that because you're just gonna bottleneck it no matter what you do. So, and at one point I was thinking, maybe they should just get an AMD card for cheap, like a 6650 or something. Or actually, what I'd probably tell them, I never got a chance to answer them. I guess they left, but I think Met told them like an Intel. If you have that old Intel, maybe an AMD could be better or something because it has less driver overhead. That was a pretty decent response. But I'd probably tell them just get, like, if you really don't want to change your CPU, although that is the correct answer. The correct answer is change the CPU. It's just too old. I mean, Haswell's bottlenecking like everything, but the thing is, there's still people out there that think that their Sandy Bridge is still good. Oh man, like there are people who will wonder if Haswell is bottlenecking, but there are people out there that think that their Sandy Bridge is not bottlenecking them. Like, okay, it's not that they don't think that they're being bottlenecked by Sandy Bridge, it's that they think that the bottleneck is only mild. They're only mildly bottlenecks. Therefore, they still continue to think that their i5 2500K or their i7 2600K is still gonna get them by for another 2 years. They're like, I'm gonna wait for Zen 6. I'm gonna wait for Zen 6 because my Sandy Bridge is still good, or I'm gonna wait till Intel Arrow Lake or whatever Intel's chiplet stuff is before I upgrade because I've been on Sandy Bridge for so long, it's not hurting me. I can still play my games. There's no way to reason with people like that. You just don't. You just move on. Just move on. You just tell them the facts, and then if they don't want to believe reality, then that's on them. But yeah, there's a lot of people who still think that Sandy Bridge is relevant today, which is kind of sad. But oh well. Because I don't think I've come across anybody who is on Sandy Bridge E, which is X79. That's HEDT, who will not admit that they're bottlenecked by their old Intel HEDT. Like, people with HEDT, they'll admit that they're bottlenecked by their ancient platform. But it's the people on the consumer desktop. It's the people on the regular i5 and regular i7 who think that the bottleneck is not that bad. It's just exaggerated. You people are just exaggerating. It's not that bad. I can still run Starfield. It works. On a 2500K. Anything below 9900K or 10700K on Intel is too old to game at this point. Yeah, I kind of think you can still game on... I want to say 8700K is still okay. But yeah, like any quad core is not good enough. So like Kaby Lake, Sky Lake, old AMD FX, Bulldozer, Pile Driver, Steamroller, Excavator, all of those CPUs, all that construction equipment, that stuff just needs to be retired in the salvage yard. It's just like not good anymore, So yeah, even like first gen Ryzen is gonna bottleneck, like really bad, like really bad. Trust me, I know. Zen Plus is also gonna bottleneck, almost as bad as Zen 1. Now Zen 2 is still okay. I think. I mean, I've seen where it can bottleneck, but I think, like, I guess to your point about 9900K, Zen 2 is kind of like 9900K. Like a 3800X is similar to a 9900K most of the time. So yeah, I think that's kind of the boundary line. Like Zen 2 or Intel Coffee Lake Plus Plus or whatever that was supposed to be called. That's kind of the boundary line. Even Zen 2 could swap out. Yeah, Nero. Yeah, yeah. You can still be okay on Zen 2 though, but it's kind of questionable in some games. That's why you won't buy Steam Deck hardware. Yeah, but remember Steam Deck is not really running the game at super high settings though. 3600 isn't cutting it today. Yeah, that's why Alex at Digital Foundry upgraded to a 7800X 3D. Well, actually, no. He kept the 3600. He kept it because they need to show like what they consider like peasant class performances. I don't know like what you guys know what I mean. Like Digital Foundry keeps the 3600 as their kind of like baseline benchmark CPU, and then they have like the high end ones. So he was testing originally. He was testing with what Ryzen 5 3600, and then the other one that he recently replaced with the 7800X 3D. It was an Intel. I think it was an Intel i9 12900K. I think that's what he was using. Yeah, that's what he was using. Yeah. Yeah, so he went from Alder Lake to that. So that's a pretty noticeable bump because the 7800X3D sits right above the Raptor, and Raptor's above the Alder Lake. So he's like, yeah, my peasant class PC is a 10700K and an Intel Arc. Well, you're doing the Intel plus Intel. Okay, you're doing the Intel plus Intel. Speaking of Arc, I do have Arc in this PC. For those wondering, we are streaming on that threadripper PC that I built. I have been testing some things just to make sure that everything works. Thunderbolt works great. I was testing PlayStation 5 latency over the Thunderbolt external capture card, and it's really, really low. I also tested USB 3.2 10 gigabit over the Thunderbolt port, and that also works really good. So, yeah, everything seems to be working. I've tested all the USB ports, nothing's defective. Because that's what you want to do in the first few days that you have a new platform. You always want to test. You want to stress test everything, but not just stress test. You want to test your SATA ports. You want to test your M.2 drive slots. You want to test your USB, your front panel USB, which I haven't actually tested yet. And basically everything. You want to test all the back ports on the motherboard. Make sure that nothing's defective so that you don't have to deal with any returns after the 15, 30 day, or some cases like 45, 60 day return, 90 day return window for some places. So you want to make sure you do that. You have a laptop 27. Ooh, that's the exact same one that I have on my ThinkPad W520. The Intel i7 well, I don't know if it's 2720. I think I have the 26 or 2760 QM or something. And some Radeon Fire Pro. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I remember trying to run like World of Warcraft or something on a Radeon. It was on a laptop. It was an Intel something. It was Intel Core 2 Duo P8700 with a Radeon 30 ATI Radeon 3650 or something. It was hilariously bad. I mean, it worked. You could play WoW on it. It's just like you're gonna be playing on 30 FPS the whole time. Does that motherboard have two onboard USB 3 front panel headers? I mean, we can look. We can just look on the block diagram, or on the. You can just look on the product page. Just type in Gigabyte TRX 50. And it's going to be this one. Let's see. Internal connectors. Where's USB 3? One. Okay, it has one USB Type C internal header with USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2, which means it actually supports 20 gigabit. So if you have a case, if you have a case that actually supports 20 gigabit USB-C, you could actually do 20 gigabit off the front panel. Now, there's not a lot of cases that I can think of that actually support 20 gigabit USB. Most of them are only going to be 10 gigabit USB-C. But this one actually has a header for 20 gigabit. And then it has one. So it looks like it's only one. Was the question two? Well, technically it has two. But one of them is the USB-C. The other one is the USB-A. Not many cases have USB-C at all. Yeah, only the newer ones. Like this, the Lian Li that I'm using has one. It has USB-C. I don't know if it's 20 gigabit though. I don't think it is, if I had to guess. And then it has two USB 3.0, the USB Type A. I don't know what speed. But yeah, I have them all plugged in. I don't have anything with me here to test real quick. I can't plug anything in. I don't have anything. Clear CMOS button, reset jumper, two temperature sensor headers, clear. I really wish the case. What I don't like about the new cases, none of the cases include the little speaker thing, so you can't listen for a post beep, and that's really annoying. That was the thing that was kind of throwing me off toward the end of the stream yesterday, because I was waiting for the memory training to go through, and I'm like, where's that beep? And then I realized, oh wait, it's never gonna beep because it doesn't have a speaker. So I had to look at the monitor, and the monitor was literally on the wrong input. I pressed the button, and then sure enough, it comes up. It's already sitting there waiting to go into the BIOS. Look at the 7000D headers. What do you mean? Look, the what? The 2720 sucks 100 watts of power, fry 2 batteries, and a charging brick. Wait, really? I think it depends on the laptop. I don't think my laptop would allow it to pull that much power. Oh, you know what? Maybe it did. Yeah, because the power supply for my laptop with that CPU was a 170 watt power supply. Oh, 7000D headers? I mean... Oh, you're talking about Corsair. You're talking about this. Yeah, I probably should have considered... See, the thing is... Here's the thing. Like, when I was in Micro Center yesterday, I was thinking about this case. The problem is, I realized, like, this build is going to cost over $3,000. So, and now that I think about it, I don't know why I was trying to penny pinch, like, on the case when the build is already going to be over $3,000. You know what I'm saying? Because this case is what, like 200 something, like, yeah, 270. The Lian Li that I ended up buying was 144. So it's more than $100 less than this. So I'm saving like $130 by going with the Lian Li over this. And I'm thinking, like, in the grand scheme of things, if you're spending like $3,000 something dollars, like $3,200, like I think the total thing was like 33. It was like 3,300 something. That was the tax, the total. So what's another $100? You know, like if you're already spending $3,300, you might as well spend $3,400 and get a full tower. So I don't know. Like I ended up, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, oh man, it's so expensive. I need to figure out how to save money. So I'm gonna get a smaller case. You know, like I don't know if that was the right choice. But I'm just glad that the build worked. And somebody in the chat pointed out yesterday that the Lian Li, the Landcool 3 case that I ended up getting, it supports a 420 millimeter AIO. So if I wanted to upgrade to a 420, I could actually do that. Now, that being said, I'm pretty sure the 7000D can yeah, it literally says it right here. Multiple, wait a minute, multiple 360 or 420. For $100, for $130 more, I have the option for multiple. Because I'm telling you, the Lian Li does not do multiple. You get one radiator and that's it. So, I don't know. But then this is so large, too. And I'd have to figure out... Because right now, technically, the way my setup is right now, the Landcool is too tall. It's too tall to fit... because I'm literally using a fold-up table. And you know how the fold-up table has like those bars that hang down toward the where the actual I can't think of the name, the legs of the table are. So because of the bar, I can't put the case all the way under the table unless I want the case to be so close to my foot that I'm like right up against the case. And I don't want to do that. So right now I have the Landcool is kind of like halfway hanging out from under the table. So it's not ideal. So if I got the 7000D, it would be even worse because that thing is so tall that I can't put it under the table. Most likely it would be like sitting way out in front of the table. So I don't know. I'd have to change the way the room is set up to fit something like a 7000D. Your point was that case has four USB 3 cables, but most motherboards. Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I actually have a case that has two also. I think it was the Cooler Master. The Cooler Master case that I was going to build in, but it couldn't fit the 360 millimeter AIO, so I couldn't use it. So, I don't know. I haven't used liquid cooling in so long. I don't actually... I think it's okay. It's just... The AIO is louder than my Noctua. Like, typically. Like, even now, I can hear the fan... I can hear the pump... Well, I don't know if it's the pump. It's probably the pump and the fans. I can hear them as I'm talking, even with these headphones on. Now, it's not, like, intrusively loud, but I know that the wind or the airflow from the fans is there. Whereas with the Noctua, I would only hear the Noctua if it was spinning up at 100% load. Like, that's the only time I would hear it. So, I kind of want to go to air on Threadripper, but I've heard... I need to do more research, but I've heard that... I think it was Puget Systems. They were saying that they tested their Threadrippers on air with the Noctua cooler that I was thinking of getting, and they think that it's better with liquid. So I might just keep it with a 360 millimeter for now, but I don't know. We'll see. I really want the system to be as quiet as possible, though. And I've already put the BIOS... I've already set the fan speed to silent mode in the BIOS, and it's still audible. So the next thing that I'm probably going to do is I'm going to have to put those resistors, those low speed adapters that came with the Deep Cool, I'm going to have to put them on the fans and see if that really silences it. Because that's the next step. Because right now, let's see, hardware monitor, it says the CPU fans are spinning at 1200 RPM. If that's the case, then there's some other... Maybe it's the intake fans that I'm hearing. Maybe those are not set correctly. No, because it says fan 1 is spinning at 900 RPM. That's weird. This memory runs kind of warm too, but not as warm as I thought it would. Let me see. Let me show you guys what I'm referring to here. How do I do... Uh, how do I show, like... Oh, there. It's going to blind people, but this is the Threadripper build right here, you guys can see. And we've got vCore is auto right now, 1.1 while live streaming. These are the temperatures, so you guys can see 43C. So, see, I built it correctly, because remember I told you guys, I don't have any extra thermal. Someone in the chat was saying, like, put what was it, Thermal Grizzly on there, and I'm like, I don't have any Thermal Grizzly on hand. And I literally, all I have is the pre-applied thermal compound on the deep cool. So it's a do or die. Like, you do it now and you stick it on the Threadripper CPU correctly the first try, or you fail. So I stuck it on there, and here are the temps, guys, while live streaming. So I did it correctly, and it worked on the first try, and it posted properly and did memory training. We got it up to 6400 on the RAM. So on a full 4 DIMMs, 128 gigs. So it works. So here's the fan speeds. You can see, like, it's something in there is spinning too fast. I don't know if it's Intel Arc or if it's the AMD GPU, but to me, 1200 RPM is not supposed to sound like what I'm hearing. So it might be the front intake fans, because now that I noticed this, the intake fans aren't reported. So maybe they are plugged into the splitter and the splitter doesn't have a sense wire or something. I don't know. I'm going to have to investigate that. System memory. Here are server voltages, 1.1. Here are the CCD temperatures. So you can see my CCDs. There are 4 CCDs on this CPU. Think of this CPU. You can think of this CPU as 4 Ryzen 5 7600X or 2 7900X. Because each of these CCDs only has 6 cores enabled. So it's kind of like a 7600X, or you can think of it like a 12-core 7900X, because that has 2 CCDs with 6 cores each. This has 4 CCDs with 6 cores each. So 6 times 4, that's how you get 24 cores. Threadripper will do that. Wait, what? What was the question? You have a 200 watt power supply on the laptop? Oh. Any chance we'll ever be able to do 4x 48 gigabyte 6000? You can already do that. You can already do that on Threadripper. That's the funny thing. Oh, but the question was on AM5. The answer is going to be that you're going to have to wait till Zen 5 to find out. That's what I'll tell you. I have already tested Zen 4 extensively, trying to get... you're trying to do 4x... Oh, you're trying to do 192 gigabytes. Yeah, I have tried to do exactly what you're describing, and the highest I can get is 5200 megahertz on 192 gigabytes, but it is not 100% stable. Now, maybe with some kind of insane overvolt, I can probably make it stable, but would I run it 24/7 like that? No. So you're pretty much today, you're limited. If you want to do 4 sticks on AM5 or Intel, because it's the same for both of them. I have tested both of them. I have videos for both of them on my channel. And you're limited to 4200 typically. If you're lucky, you can do 5200 on Intel for 192 gigabytes or 128 gigabytes. And with AMD, again, if you're lucky, you can do 5200 or 5000. So that's kind of the extent of what you can do today with these memory controllers. Now, Threadripper can do what you're saying, but Threadripper is different. It's a different animal because it has 4 memory channels. So you guys can see the temperatures look good. Package power, we're streaming right now 115 watts, and it's holding 4.8. So we're not really getting up to 5.3. Now, because I'm streaming constantly, this is going to always sample to 4.8. But what I can tell you is that in lightly threaded operations, this boosts to 5.3. Like, I've seen it go to 5.3. And one thing to keep in mind is the memory. So this ECC RAM runs pretty warm, I would say, but not outrageously warm or anything. And the thing that also wants me to kind of go to air cooling in my mind is if I go to air cooling, the RAM will get auxiliary airflow because the giant Noctua fans will move air in the area where the RAM sits. So that's something that I'm missing out on with the AIO because the AIO, I mean, there are radiator fans at the top, but I think they're far enough away from the memory, or at least the memory that's near the GPU, that it is negligible in terms of the airflow. So you get better airflow on the RAM with an air cooler versus a liquid cooler. And then here's the Hitachi old ancient drive. This is such a puny, like, this is a 1.5 terabyte ancient drive that has like old Steam games on there. And then we have an Intel SSD. This is a 670p Intel 2 terabyte. And then I think I have my Samsung 960 Evo 1 terabyte. This is my boot drive that I literally gutted from my old Threadripper PC. This is the very first M.2 drive that I ever purchased, like way back in 2017 for the 1800X build. So I've literally just migrated Windows from the 1800X on this one SSD over the years to this. Like, I never reinstalled it. It's just been migrated over and over and over through all these different PCs, and now it's on a new Threadripper system. And that's pretty much it. Here's Intel Arc. Intel Arc. It's reporting that it's at 0 degrees, so it's literally freezing. It's I don't know if this is correct. The RPM on the fan ranges from 0 to 15,560,826 RPM. And the power consumption on the Intel Arc ranges from 0 watts to, what is that? 2 megawatt, 2.5 megawatts. The Intel Arc is using 2.5 megawatts max. The graphics clock goes from 0 to 600 megahertz. The memory goes from 17,000, a static 17,497 megahertz. And the GPU utilization goes from 1% to 100%. And then we have the AMD Radeon 7900 XTX. All I can say is Intel's behavior makes AMD GPUs look so good in comparison. For all the people that always like to say that AMD has driver issues, man, just looking at these side by side, this thing uses 2.5 megawatts and runs at 15 million RPM or something. There is nothing in the slot. Wait, what? You checked if there's any. Wait, what? Oh, you're asking me, or you're asking somebody? Wait. Do you think my motherboard is defective if my SN850X runs at PCI Gen 4x4 in the M.2_3 while only Gen 2_4 in the top? What is your motherboard? I think I know the answer. Oh, this is an interesting one. This is gonna turn into a motherboard. I can already sense it, guys. I can already sense where this is going. This is gonna turn into a paint session with a motherboard block diagram drawing. That's where this is going. Okay, so we're done with this thing. Hold on. Speaking of paint, I know where this is going. I gotta get paint ready for this. I just realized that this doesn't have all of my overlays from OBS because I'm streaming on the Threadripper for the first time. There it is. Oh wait, why is it so... Wait, why is it gigantic? Oh wait, no, is it gigantic? Yeah, it is. Why does it always do that? There. Asus B650E-F gaming motherboard. Okay, it's... If I had to guess, there's some kind of lane sharing going on somewhere. You probably have something plugged in, like a USB-C device or something, but we'll have to look at it. B650E-F gaming. Okay, Asus is always the hardest one to deal with because they don't publish their block diagram for the public to see. So some of what we have to do here... So basically what that means is Asus requires more troubleshooting than is typically required. It's sad. It's sad because Asus is the largest company out of all the motherboard manufacturers, and people just blindly buy Asus, and then when they have a problem, they're always the hardest one to deal with because they make it hard for you to troubleshoot. So let's see. Okay. Right here, second asterisk. Let me see if I can zoom in even more. Right here. Double asterisk. M.2_3 shares bandwidth with PCIe 4.0 x16 supports X4 mode when M.2_3 is operating in PCIe mode. Wait, what? M.2 what? This sentence makes no sense. This is not proper English. When M.2_3 slot is operating in PCIe mode, M.2_3 will be disabled. What type of... Oh, wait, no, you're using a... What is this? What does this mean? This is the sort of thing that if BuildZoid read this sentence, he would, like, this does not compute. There'd be, like, he would throw, like, an exception error right now and just error out. And that'll be it. That'd be the whole video. Like, what is this? Only the M.2_1... I'm having issues. Oh, not the third one? Okay. Wait, so you plugged that in the... You're... Oh. Huh. Okay. So when you plug it in here, it runs at X4. But when you plug it in here... Casey Skinner just subscribed. I don't know if you're in the chat watching this unfold, but 5.0 X4. So that's the primary one. So you plug it in this and it only runs at X2. It almost sounds like it's either going to be the motherboard is defective or the BIOS. Well, okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever plugged any NVMe drive in the top slot and see it actually run at X4? Are you sure to update BIOS? Yeah. It's like, are you sure to update BIOS? Am I supposed to be sure? Or is that a rhetorical question? See, that's kind of the response that I always think of when I read that. Only a PCIe Gen 3. Okay. Well, so if it does run at X4 with a Gen 3 drive and the Western Digital drive runs at X4 when it's in the bottom slot. Yeah, have you tried manually in the BIOS? Have you manually selected Gen 4? I would try manually setting it to Gen 4 in the BIOS. Or set everything to run at Gen 4. Oh, you've tried that? Okay, let me see. Sometimes it could also be a bug with the BIOS because, well, that drive is not brand new though. Like, it's been out for a few years. Sometimes newer drives though have compatibility issues that require a BIOS update. But I don't know. That one's been out for a while. We're gonna have to go to the motherboard to check. Well, no, this one should run 2 X1s. Okay. It only talks about this one. So, this doesn't support SATA. None of these support SATA. So they're all NVMe only. So you've set everything to Gen 4. What happens if you set the M.2 to Gen 3? I think it's a BIOS thing. I think a BIOS update would fix it. See, those are the sort of things that when you update a BIOS and you read the release notes and they say stuff like improved compatibility with, and then whatever it says, like improved memory compatibility. That means they added more QVL memory SKUs. Or if it says improved SSD compatibility, that usually means that it fixed something like what you're running into. I think it's a BIOS bug with that specific SSD. Yeah, I would try setting to Gen 3. The other thing, but it's still, regardless, I think it's still a bug. Have you tried any other... Oh yeah, you mentioned when you use a Gen 3 SSD? Or no? Wait, what was the... Only the... wait, where was it? Only with a PCI Gen 3. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I would try manually setting it to Gen 3 and see if it'll come up as Gen 3 X4. The SN550 Gen 3, it ran Gen 3 X4. Yeah, it sounds like it's a BIOS thing. Because the only thing I could think of is maybe it was the SSD. But when you said that the SSD When you plug the SSD into M.2_3, it runs at X4. That, to me, rules out the SSD being bad. The contact cleaner thing, I mean, that would only really solve a problem where the drive is not actually being detected. Like if the contacts were dirty enough where the electrical contacts don't make good, there's not good conductivity, it's like insulated as an example, then contact cleaner would fix that. But in this case, it's actually getting detected. So that means that it's something with the way the BIOS is trying to operate the SSD. Yeah, I would try setting it to Gen 3 and see what it does. It's going to be one of those things, though, that Asus has to probably update the BIOS with a fix for that. And the release notes will say improved SSD compatibility. That's all they're going to say. A one-liner. They never tell you. See, this is the thing that annoys me about the motherboard manufacturers. And this is true not just for Asus. This is true for all four of them. Now, I can't comment on BioStar, so I'm going to leave BioStar out of this upcoming rant, but because I've never dealt with BioStar. But ASRock, MSI, Gigabyte, Asus, they never tell you specifically what they actually improved. It's like improved system stability, improved device compatibility, improved PCIe device compatibility, improved USB 3 compatibility. Like what? Like what did you do? What did you change? Like what was the device that was causing the problem? Was it a Samsung SSD? Was it a specific webcam? If it was a USB update? Was it some kind of like Chinese ripoff of the Xbox One controller or something, like for like a cheap gaming controller? Like what did you guys change? What did you fix? What did you do? Improved memory compatibility. Okay, does that mean Samsung works better now, or are they still garbage? Like what does that mean? The only difference is yours is 4 terabytes. Yeah, and again, that could be a thing with the BIOS because the other day I powered up my old 60 gigabyte PlayStation 3 to check and see what games were installed on there, and I plugged in a 64 gigabyte USB thumb drive to back up game saves from that PlayStation 3. Guess what? The PlayStation 3 did not detect my USB thumb drive. At first I was like, wait, did my thumb drive break? So I go and plug it into the laptop and it works fine. So I'm like, okay, I know the USB drive works. I plug it into PS3, nothing happens. It doesn't detect it. So then I started thinking, okay, maybe the USB drive is too new for this ancient console. So then I went and I found like a really old 8 gigabyte USB thumb drive. I plugged that in. Sure enough, that one came up and was detected instantly. So that means that the PlayStation 3 doesn't support, USB drives over a certain size. So you could be running into a similar sort of problem where it's probably going to have to be a firmware update on the BIOS or on the motherboard to fix that. So, yeah, because if Shadow has a 2 terabyte and it works, but the 4 terabytes showing up at half bandwidth, then it's something going on. What is that drive? Like, you said it was what's the model number again? SN850X or something? This one? Is it this? SN850X. This is the one that everybody puts in the PlayStation 5. This is the most common drive that goes in the PS5. Because Western Digital was like the first one to come out with the heatsink included. That was the correct size. Okay, so this one, yeah. What's the controller on here? Is this using Marvell? Or is this Silicon Motion? Or what's the... Do you happen to know what the actual... It doesn't say on the listing. Yeah, Marvell's not showing up. Silicon Motion doesn't show up. I don't know what the... I don't know what controller it's using. Paid $230. Oh, that was a good price. Yeah, that was a really good price. Wow. That was a Black Friday deal. I paid $170 for a 4 TB on Black Friday from Best Buy, but that one was a much slower drive. Okay, so it's some weird thing that I've never heard of. It's like some Western Digital controller. Yeah. You know what? Nero, the thing is, the more we look at this, I think it is going to have to be... Met's probably going to have to file a bug report with ASUS support. Good luck with that, because from what I hear, ASUS support is garbage. So that's going to be a tough one. But yeah, I would get a support ticket open to ASUS and just point that out. Like, here's the thing. Like, Nero mentioned, the controller is some random thing that I've never heard of. It's these random controllers that are more likely to have compatibility issues with the motherboards. Because, like, if I don't know what it is, I'm pretty sure there's probably people at ASUS that also don't know what that is. And they're probably like, it's supposed to work. Maybe. So it's one of those things, they probably have to update something in the microcode. It's like, if this, then, X4, whatever they need to do. Yeah, it's something like that. It's got to be some compatibility thing. If it goes over 2 TB, that's the thing with 2 TB. If you go over 2 TB, things start to get kind of finicky on compatibility. Now, I bought my very first 4 TB, because I don't know if that was your first 4 TB M.2, but I recently, over Black Friday, I bought the Crucial P3 Plus. And yes, I know it has no... Well, okay, it's not here. I know it doesn't have the DRAM, but the thing is, it's just going to sit there and be a storage facility for a bunch of either the unedited videos from the YouTube channel or the edited videos that actually go on the channel. So Crucial P3 Plus, 4 TB. And I can also put Steam games on there. Doesn't really matter. So yeah, I got this. I got this for like $169 at Best Buy. And this is the first 4 TB. This is not nearly as good as the one that you have. This is, see, like 5,000. So the speeds are up to 5,000. So it's Gen 4, but it isn't even reaching like true Gen 4 speed or max. It's not maxing out Gen 4. And I put this in the 7950X, the Aorus. No, yeah, it's in the Aorus Master. And it runs at X4. So, but that's because this is using the Phison. And the thing is, Phison is like the most famous one. So, I'm pretty sure, like, because they're using a name brand controller, like the Phison E, whatever the number was, like, all the motherboard manufacturers know what that is. So that's the reason why. They make it themselves. Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with ASUS support on that one, unfortunately. Yeah, I only now have started to look for 4 TB drives. But I want my 4 TB drives to be under $200, ideally. It's like, to me, they don't have to be the fastest. Because you guys know me. Like, for me, if I want the game to benefit from the SSD speed, I'll just throw the game on my T700. If I don't, and I just need capacity, I want the highest amount of capacity for the lowest price possible. Double check on SSD for. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, sometimes the SSD manufacturer will have updates. You already updated the firmware. Yeah, then it's gonna be on Asus. I have a feeling it's an Asus thing. I have a hunch that's an Asus problem. It would be interesting if somebody else had the same drive and could test it in a different brand, in like an MSI or a Gigabyte or ASRock. Because that would definitely point the finger at Asus 100%. Like if you know somebody local that has a similar modern PC that can support Gen 4 SSDs, so any X570 motherboard or newer can do Gen 4 on the NVMe and just have them tested, I guess. That would be the easiest way. But the thing is, the challenge is they have to not have an Asus board. I mean, they could have an Asus board. It just has to be a different chipset. It has to be like X570, something older, a more mature platform, ideally, that supports Gen 4, which typically means Zen 2 and Zen 3. Because Intel didn't get Gen 4 until Rocket Lake. So unless somebody has an Alder Lake system, because not a lot of people out there have a Rocket Lake system, as we know, so it's going to be harder to find somebody with an Intel system that supports Gen 4 versus someone who has an AMD system that supports Gen 4. Because any AMD platform from 2019 and newer has Gen 4. For Intel, you have to go to 2021. So 2 years back is when Intel got Gen 4. You tried a Samsung 990? Oh wait, it didn't even detect it? That doesn't sound... Okay, that's... Yeah, try manually setting it to Gen 3 and see what it does. Gershon has that. If you set it to Gen 3 and it does the same thing, then it means that it's either the motherboard could be defective or it's a firmware issue that needs a BIOS update on the motherboard. So either way, it's starting to sound like you're going to need to deal with Asus support. If it's not detecting a 990, see, that's weird. That's really weird because the 990 is well known. So I would expect Asus to have, man, Micro Center is sold out of everything. Wow, that's a pretty good price. Is that a pretty good price? Oh no, actually, no. If this was like $100, that'd be an amazing price because that's like 50% off. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, I don't know. If this doesn't detect at all, then there's something weird going on. The only other thing I can tell you is try it in a different PC. Oh, well, don't you have a can't you test it in your 5700X PC? You could test it the 5700X. Because the 5700X motherboard supports Gen 4 also. See, that's what I was telling you. I really think I think the 5700X PC is the better one over the The 10700K, you can't do Gen 4 on the 10700K. You have to get, okay, you have a gigabyte. Oh, does that not have Gen 4? It says it has Gen 4/3. Yeah, this should do Gen 4. Yeah, all AMD, like basically all X570 and B550 have Gen 4. See, that's why when you did the upgrade to the 7800X 3D, I was thinking that you were gonna keep the, well, you because you mentioned 10700K with the ARC. I would have put the 5700X with the ARC personally, but yeah, you could do the Intel plus Intel thing. Because the B550 platform is more modern. Technically, it's more modern than what you have on the Intel. Even though the 10th gen, uh, technically the 10th gen launched after the B550 chipset, the B550 chipset was still actually more advanced because it has Gen 4. The Intel platforms didn't get Gen 4 until Rocket Lake, which was 2021. See, that's the reason why, yeah. Asus Strix, yeah, that's going to have it. Running SN770 at Gen 4 X4. Oh, okay. Okay. So for some reason I was under the impression that you retired the 5700X system. Okay. So you still kept it around. Okay. Yeah, so you could test it on that one. That's what I would do. I would test it with this and see if it behaves differently. But what's really strange is the 990 Pro is not getting detected. That is bizarre. What happens if you plug it into one of the other M.2 slots? Like the second or third one. But according to this block diagram or this thing right here, there's no sharing of bandwidth with that top slot, so there shouldn't be any problems unless you're running into some kind of compatibility problem, or if the M.2 socket is defective or something. That's the other thing too in the back of my mind. Maybe there's something wrong with the actual socket. Oh, well, yeah, see, maybe it's something with the socket. It gets detected. So the Samsung gets detected in the bottom M.2 slot as a Gen 4x4. But when you plug them into the top one, the Samsung doesn't get detected at all, and the Western Digital shows up as X2. Yeah, I would manually set that to Gen 3 and see what happens. If it works at Gen 3, that means that the socket itself is probably okay, but it's probably going to be a compatibility thing. Now, why that's happening with the 990 Pro, I don't really know why. So, if you manually set it to Gen 4, I would think the 990 Pro should be detected as Gen 4 X4. But if you set it to auto, sometimes it does weird things because it tries to like set it to Gen 5, but the drive is like, I don't do Gen 5, so it kind of depends on how the firmware works, because like I can explain to you like the process of like how it could become a bug is like, let's say it's a BIOS bug. You plug the 990 Pro into the top slot, which is a Gen 5 capable slot. So the motherboard wants to auto negotiate the speed, and it depends on how the firmware on the SSD behaves. So in the case of the Samsung, maybe Asus is like, "Hey, I'm Gen 5. Are you good?" And Samsung's like, "No, I don't do Gen 5." And Asus is like, "Okay, good. Let's do Gen 5." And Samsung's like, "I don't do Gen 5. I don't do Gen 5. I'm out. Bye. So you don't get detected. So Samsung doesn't show up. It's missing in action. So something like that could be happening. And then in the case of Western Digital, Asus is like, hey, I'm Gen 5. You good? And the Western Digital's like, wait, what? No, hold on. Wait, I need to wait. What? I'm Gen 4. What? What? So then it's like, hey, hurry up, boot up. Okay, I'm coming. I mean, it's like a half bandwidth. I'm half bandwidth because I don't know what this guy's talking about. Gen 5. What is this Gen 5? So it depends on how the firmware of the SSD negotiates the link with the motherboard. Typically, the motherboard's supposed to set it. Like, Asus is supposed to be saying, hey, I'm Gen 5. Are you good? And they're like, no, I'm Gen 4. And then Asus is like, okay, hold on. Okay, I'm Gen 4. Are you good? Yes, I'm Gen 4. Okay, let's go. So that's how it's supposed to work. But there might be something with the state machine that's like messed up, or the firmware on the drives are behaving differently. But it's kind of weird. I'm just kind of speculating at this point because you have two different drives that are doing two different things in the exact same slot, but they both behave differently in a different slot, which they have the correct behavior on. So, I don't know. Question: can I do a VFIO build with AM5 with two GPUs, or are they going to be limitations? You can. There are going to be well, okay. When you say there are going to be limitations, like what do you mean? Because with AM5, you just have to be more careful in your motherboard choice. The thing about consumer desktop, whether we're talking B650 or X670 or Z790 or whatever the consumer desktop chipset is, if you want to do specific things that are not really often talked about, like in your case, you want to do VFIO, you want to make sure that you get a motherboard that has the PCIe setup that will fulfill the requirements. So what do I mean by that? Like, if you go with a X670E Crosshair Hero. Why am I referencing Asus when Asus clearly is having some kind of BIOS thing going on here? If you go with a motherboard like this, can they please not start the animation like in the middle of... Okay, anyway. What? Why is it doing that? Can they stop doing that? Okay. I think Asus is angry with me. Okay. This motherboard, as an example, has two PCIe X16, physically X16 slots, but electrically, they're different. So the top one can do 16 lanes, the bottom one can only do 8 lanes. So if you're okay with 8 lanes, and I should also add, if you want to do, you're saying 2 GPUs. So I assume you want to put one GPU in the top one and a second GPU in the bottom one. So when you put the second GPU in, because the motherboard doesn't have enough lanes to do 16 plus 16, it's going to do 8 plus 8. Basically, it's going to cut the bandwidth in half from the top slot and give that remaining half to the second slot. So you're going to have X8 up here and X8 down there. Now, both of them are going to connect to the CPU directly, so there's no chipset latency or anything like that. So that's going to be fine, but that's something to be aware of. So you could do what you're asking with AM5, but you just need to be aware that there are going to be caveats, and you're going to have to plan your motherboard decision based off of the requirements. Because if you go with a different motherboard, like for example, let's go to X670E Oris Master. And this is a motherboard that if people watch my tier list video, I ranked this motherboard very high. I said this was an S tier motherboard, but that's because for the average use case, this motherboard can do everything. There's like no no problems. But in your case, you're asking about a specific use case. And in that case, I would not recommend this motherboard because this motherboard does not have two X16 or X8 lane slots that both go to the CPU. It only has one. It only has the top one. The second and the third one go to the chipset. And the second one is only X4 lanes, and the bottom one is only 2 lane, X2. So I would not recommend this one for a dual GPU VFIO build. So no. You do that with the Taichi? Yeah, so it depends. Like, yeah, the Taichi has the X8 dual PCIe. So basically, the simple answer, the TLDR, is get a motherboard that has the ability to do X8 straight to the CPU. That's the answer. And unfortunately, the motherboards have gotten so complicated and so expensive with this generation. And I don't see that trend changing anytime soon, unfortunately. I mean, look at graphics card prices as a reference. And that's just the reality. So, yeah, just look for something that has dual X8. If you're on AM5. Now, Threadripper, just to plug Threadripper real quick, Threadripper wouldn't have this problem because you would have all the PCIe slots that you need, and they would all be X16 bandwidth. So, but yeah, the question was about AM5, so the answer is yes, you can do it. You just have to select a motherboard that will supply the correct PCIe layout. You're looking for a Gigabyte. Hey Max, you're looking for the Gigabyte B650 Aorus Elite AX. What about it? That's a decent motherboard. But I feel like there's not a whole lot more, you could get the X670. So if we look at the B650 Aorus Elite AX, this one is $189. Oh no, that's not it. That's the Intel one. That's B760. Let's look at the X670. Okay, well, it's sold out at Micro Center, so. Well, the Newegg price is not a Black Friday deal, I can tell you that. They took away their Black Friday deal on that board. And Micro Center is completely sold out, so they're not an option either, unless we try to search for them manually. Sometimes they'll show up if we do a manual search. Nope. Okay, well, oh, wait, here we go. No, it's, yeah, so this one's $200. Oh, this is Gaming AX. This is not Aorus Elite AX. But there's really no difference between the two of them. The Aorus one, I think, has different heat sinks. It has better heat sinks. But I really think that for not a whole lot more... Well, okay, I say that now, but looking at this is not the Black Friday special, so that might not apply. But still, like, if you're looking at the B650 Aorus Elite, which is typically around, $200, it's anywhere from, like, I've seen it as low as like $179 to like $220, $230. For about $30 to $60 more, you could get the X670 Aorus Elite, and that would basically give you way more connectivity, and you don't have to worry about any sort of resource sharing. So that's the thing to be aware of. So, like, what I always tell people is you want to look at the manufacturer's website when you're shopping for motherboards. The best thing to do is to check the actual website. So let's look at that one, and then X670 Aorus Elite AX. So, like, here's the Aorus Elite AX, and then here's the B650. So we'll just go here, manual, and then English. See, here's the thing. The fact that the manual said, oh well, never mind. It just has AX in there. But like here is the B650 Aorus Elite AX. So you get a Gen 5 SSD, you get a Gen 4 SSD that goes to the CPU, and then you get an X16 Gen 4, because this is an X670. This is not an X670E. If it was an E, the X16 would be Gen 5. But because it's a non-E, the X16 is going to be a Gen 4. And so is this. And then the chipset is a single chipset. And you get another M.2 slot. So you get 3 M.2s on this board. And then you get Wi-Fi, you get 2.5, LAN, and then you get 2 X1s. So it's a pretty straightforward motherboard. Like it doesn't have anything shared. So there's none of this like, oh, if you plug this thing in, you lose this SATA port. Or, you know, if you plug that USB device in that USB-C port, it turns off this thing. You know, like there's none of that. Or if you plug this thing in, you lose half your GPU lanes. None of that stuff is happening on this motherboard. So there's no worry of if I plug in a capture card in this PCI slot, is it going to disable a SATA port? You're like, none of that's going to happen. So this is a pretty straightforward motherboard. Now, that being said, if you were to step up to the X670, the difference is going to be as follows. You're going to gain a whole nother chipset down here. So you're going to have 2 chipsets, not just one. And then you have basically the exact same setup. So if you look at the top, if we zoom in here, notice if I am an optometrist, which one looks better? 1 or 2? 1 or 2? They look identical. The reality is, like, there's nothing really that different. You still have a Gen 5 SSD, a Gen 4 SSD, an X16 Gen 4 for both the B650 and the X670. What changes is down here. So the difference is now you get a 4th M.2 drive and you get the coveted X4 PCIe slot. This is the thing that I think a lot of people are sleeping on this. Like they're not paying attention when they're buying a motherboard. If your motherboard doesn't have an X4 PCIe slot, I would strongly consider looking at a different board. I'm not saying this one is a no-go, but I'm just saying like that X4 slot, you might not need it today, you might not need it a year from now, but if something ever comes up and you want to do anything with, like, you want to add 10 gigabit LAN, you want to add a capture card that does 4K 60 HDR, you're going to need this X4 slot. Now, you can go with an external capture card, but, you know, it's not going to be as good in terms of latency as this. So that's the main thing. And then you also get this X2 slot over here for PCI Gen 3. So that's kind of the main difference. You get that extra chipset, which adds more stuff. Typically, it adds another M.2, and if you don't have an X4, it adds an X4. Although there are a lot of B650 boards that do include an X4. So usually what they do is they only give you 2 NVMe drives. They sacrifice an NVMe drive to give you an X4 slot. And some higher-end B650 boards, they will give you a choice. You can either have the X4 slot, but at the expense of losing a NVMe drive slot. So it's like, do you want a 4th drive or a 3rd drive, or do you want like a 4K 60 capture card? So they give you a choice. But what I'm saying is, with B650, you're far more likely to run into that decision tree choice. Like, you're going to hit a crossroads because it's like, oh, do you want this or do you want that? With X670, you don't have to make that choice. You get both and they're there when they're needed. That's the difference. So, that's just the one thing I wanted to point out. Because, some people might be like, oh, I only want to play games on it. I don't care about all this connectivity. I want it to be cheap and fast, and I want to play games on it. Well, okay, that's a very short-sighted view of things, but yes, you can get whatever motherboard you want at that point. Like that then doesn't really matter. You're still on the B. Oh wow, that's actually a pretty good motherboard. The B350 Tomahawk from way back, that is OG 2017 Gen 1 Ryzen right there. That is a 6-year-old motherboard. That's an old motherboard. What CPU are you running on that motherboard? I'm just curious, are you on Zen 2 or Zen 3 or 5800X3E, like all the other people that are probably still on one of those, or maybe Zen 2, or are you on like OG Gen 1? Okay, so you did upgrade. You're okay. Yeah, yeah. See, that's the thing. That's what made AM4 so popular, though. Yeah, this one was a really good choice during Black Friday. Like, this was one of the best ones. This one was like 219. And if you were like, this one was 219. If you were at a Micro Center, they give you another $20 off if you bundle with the CPU. So you could have gotten this for like 199 during Black Friday with the processor if you're near a Micro Center. But yeah, that's because if you think about it that way, you paid 150 for the B350 Tomahawk 6 years ago. This for 200. I mean, it's a massive upgrade, and it's like just $50 more. If I'm just saying, like, if you manage to get one of these during the Black Friday deal. Now, these kind of deals are probably going to come up in the next couple of weeks as it gets closer to the holiday season. So I would be on the lookout for that. I would just kind of watch the motherboard prices on a lot of sites like Newegg. I don't know if you're near a Micro Center, but yeah, like, always watch those deals, because I saw Micro Center, the price on the what is it, the 60, or wait, where is it, 7800X3D. Man, they're like sold out of this thing. Oh, there it is. This thing actually went lower than the Black Friday sale price. This was 350. This was 349. 349 at Micro Center on Black Friday. After Black Friday, I guess what happened was the price of motherboards went back up to more normal levels, but then this thing went down. So now this is even less than it was during Black Friday. So that's, yeah. So for those that just want to do like a drop-in socket upgrade, although I don't know how justifiable a socket upgrade to this is from like a 7700X or something, or a 7600X. That's the CPU you chose for the next build. Yeah, I mean, this is like the best CPU, so it's a pretty easy choice. But yeah, I would definitely look for X670, or at least consider X670. Now you could find a B650 that does have X4. They do exist. They're harder to come by, but they do exist. So I think one that I can think of, B650E, Tai Chi, I think has one. Or actually, you know what? Not even Tai Chi. Steel Legend. I think Steel Legend has one. Could be wrong. Oh, this one might not have one. Actually, you know what? I don't remember. Let's see. ASRock. I do want to point out ASRock actually has very good price points for the actual extreme chipset. So the E, so B650E and X670E. ASRock has some of the most compelling options because they're priced really aggressively and they're the full chipset. Like it's the extreme, right? It's not the non-E. So I just want to point out that because I found like ASRock offers really good value, at least for AM5. I don't know about Intel, and I don't know how it was for AM4, but if we look here, ASRock, yeah, see, ASRock has an X4. ASRock, in all their infinite wisdom, has a X4 PCIe slot on a B650 motherboard. And it looks like there's no sharing. If we look at this, they have an X16, they have an M.2 Gen 5, and the graphics card slot is Gen 5. Full Gen 5 because this is a B650E, which means you get the full Gen 5 bandwidth. So you get Gen 5 M.2, you get Gen 5 graphics slot, then you get the, like I said, the magical X4 PCIe slot. Now this one only runs at Gen 3. They do this to make the price more affordable. That's really why they're doing that. Because they could do Gen 5, but that's going to make it more expensive. This is what I mean by ASRock makes things very price competitive. So the other thing too about this board is if you wanted to use integrated graphics, you could display two monitors. You could do an HDMI monitor and you could do a DisplayPort monitor straight off the motherboard. It has two display outs on a B650E, and then you've got like on the chipset, there's the 2.5 LAN, the Wi-Fi, and two M.2s, nothing shared. So this motherboard, I feel like this one's pretty good because you're getting three M.2 drives, one of which is Gen 5, the other two are Gen 4, and then the only thing that it lacks is SATA. You only get two SATA ports. I mean, it looks like that's all it's got. So two SATA ports. That's not a lot of SATA ports. So if you don't care about old hard drives or 2.5-inch SSDs that are bottlenecked by the SATA link speed, then this could be a pretty cheap one, actually. Let me see. What is this priced at? This is actually pretty good. B650E Legend. Oh, okay. Well, it's out of stock, and that's not a very impressive price, to be honest. But well, that's not a terrible price for all that it's offering, but I was hoping that it would be less than that. B650E steel. Oh, yeah. See, okay, if you live near a micro center, that's a pretty good motherboard, and it includes a anti-sag bracket for a graphics card. It literally includes that as well. This is what I mean. There's the Wi-Fi antenna. That's what I mean by ASRock offers really good value, and they're often overlooked. And I don't know if there's a reason why. I feel like there's a lot of people that just look at ASUS and they don't look at other brands. But man, the other guys, if you're looking for value, ASUS is actually not where it's at. ASUS is the last place to look if you're looking for a good deal on a motherboard. Yeah, so there's just a couple of things. You just have to kind of figure out like what you actually need the motherboard to be able to do besides basic things like, and when I say basic things, I mean play games and just do random work on the computer. Like that's what I consider basic things. But if you need specific things like capture card or 10 gigabit networking or multi GPU, these sort of things, then it starts becoming more dependent on what the motherboard actually offers. That differentiates it from other motherboards. Notice how it says, I like how this says frequently bought together. Then it literally has the 7800X3D down there, and then some G-Skill, whatever, 32 gigabyte RAM, and Windows 11. Oh man, Windows 11. I might actually have to upgrade to Windows 11 because, well, at least for this Threadripper computer, because the Threadripper doesn't, it's not Threadripper, it's because Microsoft doesn't support Wi-Fi 7. It's not that it doesn't really, it's not like I need Wi-Fi 7. I just want to make sure that my Wi-Fi 7 module on the motherboard actually works with the driver. So I would have to go to Windows 11 for that. So I don't know. I might actually have to go to Windows 11. Because I can't use the Wi-Fi on the motherboard unless I go to Windows 11. I gotta look into see if Linux has the Wi-Fi. See, the problem with Linux is the drivers sometimes are just not even there, and they don't show up for like 6 months. So the thing is, this Wi-Fi module is so new. So if we go to support for the TRX50 Aero D, this is the motherboard I'm using. And if I go to downloads, wireless LAN, see right here, Qualcomm Wi-Fi 7 Wi-Fi driver. Man, Gigabyte, your site's weird the way they automatically like resize it if I try to zoom in. OS, Windows 11. It doesn't work. I tried to install it on my Windows 10. It did not do anything. Device Manager still does not recognize the wireless LAN. I tried it. It didn't work. Some people, I was reading about it online earlier today. Some people online are saying that it's not Microsoft's fault. It's it's Qualcomm. They're blaming it on Qualcomm. They're saying that Qualcomm and MediaTek, if they wanted to, they could make the drivers for Windows 10, but for whatever reason, they are not doing it. And some people, there's conspiracy, the conspiracy theorists are saying, oh, Microsoft's paying them not to do it. Well, that to me sounds really dumb. I'm pretty sure Microsoft wouldn't do that. So, yep, nope, I can't get my Wi-Fi module to work. I just want to make sure that it's not defective. See, I'm not going to actually use the Wi-Fi, but I just want to make sure that everything on my motherboard actually works out of the box. So I don't have to deal with an RMA or something later past the return window. You heard that NVIDIA takes forever to add drivers. Will that be the case for the new super variants of the thing? Takes forever to add drivers for what specifically? Use Windows to go USB for that, then go back to Windows. You know what? That is a good idea. I might actually do that. Windows on the USB, Windows 11 on the USB to test that it works, and then go back to Windows 10 on M. Yeah. Oh man, that's a good idea. I would have to could I just you know what? I'd have to find like a thumb drive that I could do that. I only have a bootable Linux thumb drive right now. That's a good idea. I might actually do that. I'm thinking more and more about actually doing that because I don't know. Like some people say don't go to Windows 11. Other people I talk to say that Windows 11 is fine and they don't know what these people that are complaining are talking about. So I don't know who to believe. I honestly don't know who to believe. Like the people that are saying that Windows 11 is terrible, stay on Windows 10 until the last lifeboat. You know, like stay on the ship as long as possible until it finally sinks. Or the people that are already on like an island somewhere, like, hey, come to the Windows 11. Don't even forget about what those people are saying. They don't know what they're talking about. Just go to Windows 11. You know, it's like the complete opposite. I'm stuck dealing with polar opposites, and I don't know which way to go. Get an external SSD for that? Yeah, I don't have an external SSD. That's the thing. Like, I literally use almost all the hardware that you guys see on the channel. It actually does get used. So if I might have a thumb drive somewhere that I might be able to format and put Windows on there. You and me both, Max. I'm still on Windows 10, but the thing is, like, this whole Wi-Fi 7 thing. So I was thinking maybe I only upgrade the Threadripper PC and have that one PC be on Windows 11, but then everything else is still Windows 10. I don't like mixed Windows operating environments. Like I don't like having multiple PCs that I work on be on different versions of Windows. Like I would rather all of them be on either Windows 10 or all of them be on Windows 11. No, I've never done that software. Windows 11 is not fine unless you're fine with webhook trash everywhere. Didn't Windows 10 have that though? But they kind of either toned it down or just made it less noticeable. Do you still have the 5800X and the Linux PC is different. So the Linux PC is actually the 7700X now. So when I upgraded to the 7950X3D, I moved. Well, actually, what did I do? I can't remember if I did a new PC build. I think I did a new PC build. No, that's not what I did initially, was it? No, that's not what I did initially. So, initially, I upgraded the. So, I had this motherboard that we just talked about earlier, the X670 Aorus Elite. This motherboard was originally paired up with the 7700X, the Ryzen 7. Then, when the 7950X3D came out, I upgraded to that CPU on this motherboard. Then, later on in the year, there was some kind of deal, and I ended up buying the ASRock Steel Legend. Not this one, it was the X670E. Steel Legend. And I ended up doing like an actual PC build video. I made a PC build video out of this motherboard. So, but it features the 7950X3D. So what ended up happening was I was like, oh, well, if I'm moving the X3D to this motherboard, now I have this motherboard available to re-enable the 7700X. So what I ended up doing was I got rid of the 5800X PC, and I moved the Linux install, or the Linux SSD actually, the M.2, over to this motherboard. So currently, my Linux PC is using the X670 Aorus Elite AX with the Ryzen 7 7700X with a R9, or not R9, RX 6900 XT. Is it 6900 XT? Yeah, it's 6900 XT. Yeah, it's not using the 6950 XT, although I could swap it out to that one, but I'm not using that one. But yeah, so that's where the 6900 XT is, and that's where the Linux PC is. So pretty much everything that I use today is either going to be Zen 4 based, with the one exception being an Intel Raptor Lake desktop that I still have around. Like that's the only other one. So I've got Zen 4 X3D, I've got Zen 4 16 core, I've got Zen 4 8 core, and now I've got, Threadripper, which is also Zen 4 based. So 2950X is officially retired now. So I was thinking of doing some side-by-side benchmark comparisons between 2950X and the 7960X. But I don't know. Like, do you think that sort of content would actually get views? I don't think a lot of people watch Threadripper content. I mean, I could make the video, but it would be a lot of effort because I would have to essentially take one of my M.2s and clone my drive on there and then put that one back in the old Threadripper so I could do benchmarks on both. Because I don't want to like benchmark on this and then pull out the M.2s and do all that stuff. No, I don't know. Like I would have to like clone Windows. I'm going to have to do something with Windows because I need to test the Wi-Fi 7 anyway. So ameliorated Windows removes all the telemetry, among other stuff like phone and Xbox and all that junk. Xbox is needed if you have a dual CCD X3D. Yeah, Nero, you have a good point. You kind of need the Xbox game mode. Well, you don't really need Xbox per se, but you do need game mode, which I think the Xbox app runs on top of the game mode. So maybe you don't need Xbox, but you do need the game mode. I mean, technically you don't need game mode, but then what you would have to do is you'd have to go into the BIOS if you wanted to like change the behavior of how the algorithm like favors one CCD over another. You could do that at a BIOS level, but that's to me that's like something that nobody's gonna want to do. I'm never gonna bother doing that. It's too much extra effort in reality. Like the easiest thing is game mode on, game mode off. Like it's so easy. Like the people saying that dual CCD X3D is like too confusing. It's not confusing. It's so easy. All you do is if you want Vcache for your game, you turn game mode on. If you want frequency for your game, you turn game mode off. That's all you do. It's that simple. You don't need process lasso. You don't need all this. You don't need to manage all this stuff. No, it's does my game like frequency or does my game like Vcache? If it likes Vcache, turn game mode on. If it doesn't, turn game mode off. Because the way that Windows Scheduler works, if you turn game mode off, it's just going to prefer the fastest cores. And the fastest cores are on the other CCD, the one that doesn't have the Vcache. So those are the cores that are going to get most of the work if you want it to favor frequency. Every alternating version of Windows is bad. Yeah, I noticed that. 8.1 was debatable because 8.0 was actually the original Nero. You gotta remember, it's like 8.1, that's like saying Windows XP Service Pack 2 was okay. You know, like, that's what that's like. 8.1. 8.1 was actually, I don't know. I just didn't like 8 at all. So. Yeah, so, yeah, I know, right? So that's basically, so let me think about this here. Let's go to Paint. So Windows. Wow, that's why is it so bold? Oh. Windows. What was the first like okay. Windows 3.0 was bad, right? Or was it good? I can't remember. Windows 3.1, Windows 95, Windows 98. Then people, okay, here's the thing. Like, a lot of people do Windows 98 second edition, and they say that was like one of the best OSs of the 90s. Isn't this like, this is kind of like saying Windows 8.1. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this like Windows 8.1? Isn't second edition the same as Windows 8.1? Oh, I'm missing Windows. Well, I haven't gotten that far yet. Thoughts on how to set up multiple PSUs for a multi-GPU setup? Why would you need multiple GPUs? How many GPUs are you going to connect? Windows 2000, Windows ME, Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8. Isn't this basically second edition? Is this okay to do this? Like, or is this cheating? Isn't this Windows 98 cheating? It's trying to get in line twice. Same thing with Windows 8. Does this even count? Like is this so significant that it's actually it's capable of being listed as its own operating system? Only no. Wait, what? Only no because 8 and 8.1 were trash. 98 and SC weren't. Well, apparently 98. A lot of people complain about certain things about 98. Now I don't know what they complained about, but apparently they complained enough that second edition was a thing. If you're doing AI and have multiple GPUs to take advantage of all the PCIe lanes that Threadripper offers, yeah, actually using AI will actually load the GPU because I've gotten that question before from people that are wanting to do video editing or like they're trying to do some kind of content creation stuff or some kind of like 3D modeling, and my response to them was some of that stuff doesn't really stress a GPU the way a game does, so the power consumption on the GPU wouldn't actually be that bad. But AI can actually push the GPU. So, yeah, I personally have never done the whole like run two different PSUs for different graphics cards. So I don't know. You probably want what I would suggest that you do is check out the YouTubers that did Ethereum mining, or I guess if they're still doing like crypto mining, because those guys there are walkthrough videos of how to set that up. So I would begin there. I personally have never tried to run two PSUs for one PC before. So like my thing is I would buy a big enough PSU so that I wouldn't need to worry about that. So I would either do like a 1500 watt or a 1600 watt power supply, and that can typically do 3 GPUs. So that's what I would recommend. But because the thing is, if you're gonna build a system that needs 2 PSUs, you might as well look at like something from Supermicro, like a server build, because that's gonna give you redundant power supplies and they'll do it correctly. Whereas if you try to do it in a custom build, typically the PC case is not going to fit 2 PSUs. So, that's number one that you need to be aware of. Like, the build's not going to look very good with 2 PSUs. So, you would need to send power on signal to both PSUs and then allocate plugs based on what you want. Yeah, that's the thing that, yeah. I remember I watched a video a few years ago about how to do dual PSUs, but I don't remember enough to tell you firsthand how to set it up. But I do remember what Nero just said. You basically have to send the power on signal. You cannot you can't have one power supply just like be there to turn on the computer and stuff and then have another PSU literally just sitting on the side with a PCIe plug plugged into a GPU. That's typically that's not going to work. So because the PSU doesn't know that it needs to be on. So you had not heard of Supermicro? Supermicro does server builds for more like lower price points compared to the really really large OEMs. But if you're doing something like, if you truly are going to do AI things like that, I don't think you need more than one. I still don't think you need more than one PSU. But just to kind of close this off, all the good ones, wasn't it that all the good ones were uh, alternates of each other? So you basically had Windows XP was good, Windows 2000 was good, although supposedly Windows 98 was also good, so this one doesn't really match. Windows 7 was good. Windows 8, well, no. Okay, see, that's why I don't know why those are there. Windows 10, and then here we are. So, supposedly, Windows 12 is the one to go to. I don't know when it's going to come out. I think it's coming out soon. But yeah, like, what I would say is just get like a 1500 watt PSU. Or, like, get a 1500 watt or 1600 watt PSU. And then, like, what type of GPUs are you even going to use? Because you're saying AI, so I assume that means you're going to be doing either something with 24 gigabyte GPU. Because that's what I would recommend if you're going to do AI stuff. Like, and you're actually going to need all that VRAM. Or you're going to need something more. It's either going to be this, or that. In that range. Yeah. It's going to be in that range. So that means the choices are the RTX 3090, that's the weakest one. Then the RTX 3090 Ti. Good luck trying to find one of those. There's not many of those. The Radeon RX 7900 XTX. The RTX 4090. The A6... Well, let's not list those yet. The W7900... actually, hold on. This W7800, I think, has 32 gigabytes of RAM, if I'm not mistaken. Then the W7900. Then the I don't remember these ones. It's the one that RTX 6000 ADA, whatever that was called. And there's probably some other one that NVIDIA makes. It's cut down. I don't remember the name or the model number. These are the choices. It's slim pickings, considering how much these GPUs cost right now. Well, actually, these are going to be normal priced. This is going to be overpriced. This is going to be way overpriced. This is going to be underpriced. But there are some challenges with choosing this. Mainly, like, how is your LLM going to scale? Is it PyTorch based? Because maybe it will work pretty well with this recently due to ROCm support and all that stuff. So then this might actually be the best choice from a price standpoint. And then you can also go with these if you can somehow find them. The problem is these are not selling at proper prices on eBay. Like the price point on 3090 is not good for what you're getting. Unless you really just need 24 gigabytes of VRAM. But I don't know. I think there's better options personally, so I would kind of avoid these. There are a lot of reasons why you should avoid these, and I'll give you a few. One is 3090 is a straight like no go because half of the memory sits on the back and you're buying used. You have no idea what they did, and chances are the VRAM on the back is going to start running errors and just have issues over time. So that's why I would avoid 3090. So, but these other ones are actually pretty decent. Like 3090 Ti is actually a really good choice if you can find one at a fair price, I'll say. And then this is actually, like, if you're okay using Rock'em and PyTorch, that's pretty good actually. So I'd probably go with that if you want 24 gigabytes at the lowest price possible. But then otherwise, you're gonna have to either like pay a scalper if you want this. So that's why, like right now, currently, this is sort of a no go, just because it's like so hard to get. So I wouldn't recommend it. I never recommend paying a scalper to get a GPU. So, like, because my philosophy is if you bought a GPU from a scalper, you got scalped. You basically got scammed. So, and then of course you have to check professional cards, and those are gonna be like professional pricing, but they have lots of VRAM. So you know this one's gonna be 32 gigabytes. 32 gigabyte. This one's gonna be 48 gigabyte, and then this one's also 48 gigabyte. So those are your big GPUs if you want like lots of VRAM. These are the options. But they're going to be like really expensive compared to the other ones. But the thing is, if you have one of these, you don't need more than one power supply. Just keep that in mind. So that's I hope that answers the question on like how do you make two power supplies work. TensorFlow. Yeah, that's roadmapped. That will actually work on the AMD option. That's what I was telling some people the other day. Like the startup companies that are investing in the programming effort to develop the LLM to work with the Rock'em stuff, they have a competitive advantage, and they can probably get more investment money if they can convince investors that they have a competitive advantage, meaning they can secure hardware and basically sidestep the waiting line for NVIDIA GPUs by going with AMD GPUs. They just have to prove that their app can work it can be developed in a specific length of time that gives them an advantage over another competing firm that is trying to go the traditional NVIDIA route to market. So that's what I'll say to that, because there's like, man, what's the name of that guy? The ex-Twitter employee who bought a whole bunch of XTX cards from XFX recently. And he went on to say literally what I just said about, like, if a startup goes AMD, like, they're actually going to get way more investment money up front because all their competitors are waiting for, like, a year to get those NVIDIA GPUs in. Because most likely, if they can program the app to work on an XTX, they can get it to work on an MI300. And the MI300, that's going to be kind of hard to get to initially, but I think it won't be as hard to get compared to the Grace Hoppers. I was hearing that Rock'em on Windows is to be used through... What's WSL again? For some reason, I'm drawing a blank. Windows Service, what? Windows Service, what is WSL? I forget what that is. No, Rock'em works. I mean, I thought it did. I thought it already came to Windows unofficially. Oh, Windows subsystem for Linux. Okay. Yeah, yeah. If you run Linux and Windows like that, then yeah, it'll work. Uh, the only thing that I've dealt with, the only thing that I've gotten to work on Windows is Stable Diffusion, like stable on an AMD, like AMD Stable Diffusion. It works with Microsoft's Direct ML. So I can't comment on Rock'em. I have used Rock'em on Linux. Obviously, it's from Linux, but I don't know what the state is of Rock'em on Windows natively. So you're saying WSL? Well, that makes sense because of the Linux CLI. Yeah, it steals half your RAM and allocates it to the CLI. Is it always half? You can't configure that. It always steals half. I'm gonna have to look into that. I haven't done anything with like Linux CLI on Windows. If I'm doing stuff in Linux, it's always on Linux natively. I'm not doing it from Windows. Oh, yeah. I wanted to do more content on Linux, but I feel like nobody watches those videos. It's like you put so much effort into making a video, and then if it doesn't get the views, then I feel like it kind of wasted a lot of time because I could make a video. I should probably do another video on AI. I've only done one, and I said I was gonna do more, but then I just kind of forgot about it. Okay, so Hyper V. Yeah, I only use the native Linux. If I'm gonna do anything with Linux, I just use Linux. I don't touch Windows if I have to do anything with Linux. And that's the thing. Like right now, I guess initially what I'll probably do with this Threadripper PC, I'm going to test it with Windows. I'm going to continue testing it with Windows for a while. And then once I make sure everything works, the system's 100% stable. Actually, I think the system's 100% stable. I just need to make sure that the Wi-Fi 7 module actually works. So I need to figure out what to do about that. So I like the idea of putting Windows 11 on a USB drive and then verifying it works and then just go back to the M.2 on Windows 10. So I'm actually strongly considering that. Okay, well, we were supposed to talk about games and hardware. We talked about hardware. We did not talk about games. The one thing I'll say about games are you're not considering dual boot. I have, but I'd rather just have the Linux PC just be in its own entire thing, like not within the Windows PC. Because the thing with the Windows PC, like typically, well, I could do dual boot. My Linux PC right now, the Linux PC, I'll tell you the Linux PC specs. Like this, the standalone Linux desktop is, well, it's Ubuntu for one thing. And a lot of people were telling me to try a different distro. This is the one I use at home. Like I've used Red Hat in the professional world previously, like in a previous role, but I haven't touched Red Hat in a long time. Uh, but people were telling me use a different distro for gaming. Uh, I just haven't bothered to look into that further. But yeah, I'm using I forget, it's like 23 whatever the latest like LTS, I forget. I forget the number. Is the one the AI boys like. Oh. Yeah. Well, I've tested, so I'll just tell you the specs. So it's AM5. It's Ryzen Ryzen 7 7700X. That's the CPU. The GPU is Radeon RX 6900. No. Yeah. 6900 XT. That's right. So this is like the components. See, so the thing is like with Windows, it's like, yeah, this is good, but for some reason, like Linux is really good with this in particular. So, like, if I was running with the, if I was running with the, like if I was gonna do dual boot and I had an NVIDIA GPU in, then it's like, well, you know, now I have to deal with that. So, Red Hat killed itself. Huh. Yeah, I guess. Well, that's what I'm running there, and it's 64 gigabytes of RAM at like 5200 megahertz DDR5. So it's like, this is Micron JDAC 5200, nothing special. But see, the thing is with Linux, I don't do anything that's like enthusiast based in terms of like trying to. So I don't really care. Like the memory can run like this. I don't really care. I just want it to have high capacity and just work. So that's the Linux PC. So the Windows PC, there's different ones. So, but anyway, that's the hardware that I have. And I've done Rock'em. I got like PyTorch working. Rock'em was working, and I was able to do like Stable Diffusion on this PC. And it works really well. Like this GPU is very fast. I did a YouTube video showcasing this exact config for Stable Diffusion, Automatic 1111, and I did a demo video. I think the video is only like 5-6 minutes long, but it shows this. It shows Stable Diffusion working on Ubuntu with the 6900 XT, and it works really well. It's like real fast. Like this is like NVIDIA speed on Windows in terms of how fast it is. There's a few minutes behind the live stream, but FYI, does not steal RAM when not running, and you can allocate more. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking there's got to be some kind of like INF file or INI file to configure the memory amount. So there is some config file. Also, latest on Windows 11 releases RAM. Man, you're really trying to get me to upgrade to Windows 11. First, they make it so that if you want Wi-Fi 7, you have to go to Windows 11. Now, I'm hearing about this. Windows 11 releases the RAM. Wait, that's one of the complaints? Artificially locking things like bridge networking and better. Oh, yeah. Only when there is no actual technical limitation. Yeah, that's the conspiracy theorist point of view, though. Like they're all saying that all of this stuff could work on Windows 10. It's like Microsoft just doesn't want it to work on Windows 10. Man, this macrum reflect thing keeps on like turn off this notification. It's annoying. It's probably not, Nero. That's the thing. See, the more we get into these technical, like, the more technical we go, the more the cracks in Windows 10 due to Microsoft start showing up. RMM just subscribed. I don't know if you're actually even watching the stream. Sometimes what I've noticed is, like, people will subscribe to the channel, but they're not actually watching the live stream. I don't know if you're watching the live stream. That's great. But oftentimes, like, when people sub to the channel while I'm live, like, it's somebody randomly just watching one of my YouTube videos, and then they just subscribe to the channel. And then they just show up while I'm live. Even though they're not even watching the actual stream, so whatever. But I appreciate the sub, so thanks for subscribing. Yeah, but it goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? It's like Windows is cursed. Microsoft has been cursed since Windows 2000, right? Like after maybe all of this is the curse of ME. It's either the curse of well, it's got to be the curse of ME, right? Oh, did I forget Windows NT? I think I forgot Windows NT. I think Windows NT was between 98 and 2000. The curse of ME has held for so long that every Windows release alternates between a good release and a bad release. So Windows XP, good. Windows Vista, bad. Windows 7, good. Windows 8, bad. Windows 10, good. Windows 11, bad. It's like the curse of Windows ME. ME returned as Vista. Yeah, it keeps getting reincarnated. It keeps getting reincarnated. It's like it has like some kind of recursive loop that it eventually breaks out of and then it comes back like every other generation, right? Somehow able to branch out and come back. Because as far as I remember, like 95 was okay. 98 was good, was great actually, especially with second edition, and then 2000 was solid. And then ME like screwed everything up. ME came out, it was, oh man, it was bad. It was bad. Everybody likes to complain about Vista. Everybody likes to hate on Vista, but man, ME, like, if you actually, okay, granted, you could still do a lot of basic things in ME that Vista made more challenging, but in all honesty, like, if I had to choose between Vista and ME, like, let me put this question out to the chat. If you had to choose, if you were forced to use either Windows ME or Windows Vista for a whole year, think about this. If you were forced to use Windows ME or Windows Vista as your primary machine for an entire year, which would you actually choose? Windows ME was actually completely fine for me after Windows ME. You guys really hate Vista that much? Man, I probably need to go back and like read up on all the complaints about Vista, because I remember ME being really bad. Vista was, the problem with Vista was Vista came out when I think the hardware was not ready for it. If Vista came out when Windows 7 launched, I really don't think Vista would have gotten that much hate. If you're gonna do something bad, might as well do the original. I don't know, man. I would go with Vista. I personally would go with Vista over ME if I had to deal with it for an entire year. Because Vista, see, a lot of people forget, Vista added a lot of things that people actually think that Windows 7 introduced. Like, Vista had the search feature that you could do in Windows 7. That was actually in Windows Vista. Windows 7 had an improved version of it. It was like the 2.0 edition. But Windows Vista actually introduced it. So I would definitely take Vista over ME, man. No way. I would not touch ME ever. So no. Vista was very bad in 2006 when it came out. But I joined 2009, and it was much better then, but still, in the audio department was bad. Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Like, what I remember about Vista, I remember ME had a lot of weird problems, a lot of security vulnerability problems that were like very serious problems. That's what I remember about ME. And then just like all kinds of stupid decisions in terms of the design. Windows Vista had a lot of stupid decisions in terms of the design, but to me, Windows Vista was still functional. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Windows 8 actually annoys me more than Windows Vista did. Because Windows 8.1 fixed the issue with the tiled menu screen. You guys remember the tiled menu screen? And you would open like a PDF file and the thing would go full screen and you can't like get back to the desktop easily. It was so annoying. Like Windows 8's design choices were so bad. Like they were glaringly bad. More so than Vista. Vista didn't go that far. Like Windows 8 tried to turn a desktop PC into an iPad, and it just didn't work. Or like a Windows Surface, whatever they call those things. Like a little tablet. And no, you cannot do tablet design on a desktop environment. It doesn't work. ME crashed. Yeah, it had a lot of security issues and a lot of stability problems. But you guys got to remember, Vista never did these things. Like, it didn't, like, full screen tile in front of your face every time you wanted to do something, like the way Windows 8 did. And then it didn't have all the stupid, like, annoying things that ME did that just kind of, like, it made everybody just want to stay on 2000 forever, or just get out of there and go to XP as soon as possible. So like ME was so bad that it was just so bad. You either wanted to go backwards away from it, or you wanted to like run forward away from it instantly. You know, like no, like Microsoft keeps wanting me to go to Windows 11. Every time I like do a Windows update and reboot, it comes up with the blue splash screen. You know, upgrade now, free upgrade Windows 11, and I'm like, decline. And it's like, are you sure? Decline, upgrade, and then it goes back into Windows 10. So it's doing that to me a lot recently. But if I was on Windows ME and it asked me to do the upgrade to XP, I wouldn't even think twice. I would just instantly upgrade. Like I wouldn't even think of staying. You know what I mean? That's how bad it was. Vista had driver support problems in the beginning. That was mostly the problem. Was it really driver? Okay, maybe. But the thing is, it actually... Yeah. See, that a lot of people forget that Vista, a lot of what is built into the operating system today, still, if you trace it far enough back, it all came from Vista. A lot of the security things that Windows 7 had, the search features that Windows 7 had, all that stuff was from Vista. But a lot of people forget that. They all think, oh, Windows 7 introduced the search, the smart search. That's a Windows 7 thing. No, it's not. It's actually a Vista thing. I'm trying to remember what, if Vista had the, you know, like you can click and drag. Like if you drag a window all the way to the right or the left screen, it like automatically like sizes it on the side of the screen, or if you drag it up, it'll like full screen. I don't know if Vista introduced that or if that was a Windows 7 thing. I think that was a Windows 7 thing. People said Windows was how Vista should have been in the beginning. Oh, Windows 7. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Like Windows 7 is kind of like Windows 8.1. Like Windows 7 is to Vista as Windows 8.1 is to Windows 8. Sort of. Yeah, but between those three, because... Okay, so I guess here's the ultimate question. Because see, in my mind, between these three atrocities, I would rank... If I had to say which one I think is the worst... like, if I had to pick one... Okay, the worst one is probably... See, it's so... I want to say Windows 8... But at the same time, 8 has so many modern things that ME doesn't have. that it's like if I had to use one of these OSs for an entire year, the ones that I really would not want to use is I would not want to use Windows 8. Like, this is the worst one. This is the second worst one. This is the least worst out of the three. Like, I could tolerate Vista for a year compared to these other two. Like, the tiles in my face, that's a no-go. Like, and I'm not talking about Windows 8.1. I'm just saying, like, Windows 8. We're not talking about Windows 8.1. Because if we're talking Windows 8.1, I'd probably go with Windows 8.1 over, like, Vista and ME. Because Windows 8.1 fixed a lot of things. But if we're strictly talking about Windows 8, Windows Vista, and Windows ME, as everybody remembers them, then I would choose Vista if I had to deal with one OS for an entire year. Like, it's some kind of challenge or something. So now the ultimate question would be, which is worse if we add Windows 11? Is Windows 11 better or worse than any of these three? And why? It's like alternating generations introduce experimental failures. That leaves me wondering what is so experimental about Windows 11. That is the question. That's what I'm asking. So is Windows 11 better or worse than these other three experimental failures, I guess? Intel needed better thread director. Man, that sounds like another conspiracy thing. Like, oh, that's another reason. That's another reason to upgrade to Windows 11. So far, okay, here are the reasons. Here are the reasons. Reasons to upgrade to Windows 11 are as follows. 1, Wi-Fi 7. As if that even really matters at this point in time. Wi-Fi 7. Actually, wasn't DirectX 12 Ultimate supposed to be? Was it supposed to be exclusive? But then they like kind of backtracked on that. Although I think they originally wanted some sort of DirectX specific feature to be restricted to just Windows 11, but then I think they didn't do it for whatever reason. TikTok is in Windows 11? Uh-oh. They're watching now. Auto HD. Oh, yeah. Okay. Auto HDR. I'll put that one down. Auto HDR. That is true because HDR in Windows 10 is garbage. I mean, sometimes it's okay, sometimes, but most of the time, it's very, no. Yeah, no. I mean, I have an HDR monitor and on Windows 10, and I don't even use HDR. I just leave it in SDR, because it's like, no. Intel Thread Director. You get Intel Thread Director support, full support on Windows 11. Windows 10, it literally doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. I mean, okay, to Microsoft's credit, Windows 10 is smart enough to choose the core that it thinks is the fastest for the job. So it's able to do that with a decent amount of accuracy, let's say. But there's no input from Intel's whatever Threadripper is supposed to be, that black box that Intel developed. Like, Windows 10 can't speak that language. So when the black box opens and tries to whisper things to Windows 10 is just sitting there, deer in the headlights. Like, I have no idea what you just said. So until then the black box from Intel Threadripper just kind of like closes again, and it just keeps quiet. So, yeah. So you get Threadripper support on Windows 11. That's a big one. If you have an Intel CPU, typically, the behavior on AMD is not really that different between the two of them. Although realistically, it's not that different for most people on Intel either. So, I think that's it, right? Just these three things. One of them is very platform specific. Another one is hardware specific. You have to have an HDR monitor. And the third one is also technically very hardware specific. So, is there anything software? Does Windows 11 offer anything that makes it such that you feel compelled to upgrade from a software functionality standpoint? Because all of these things that we've listed are literally like very niche specific hardware dependent features. All AMD cores are the same. Yeah, but even then the X3D, like even if you don't even use Game Bar, it still behaves like a normal CPU, like a typical 50 or 7950X. Taskbar in the middle, I personally don't like that. I personally don't like taskbar in the middle. I would move that back to left aligned, and I'm very glad that they actually give you the choice to switch it back. Because if I went to Windows 11, I can tell you right now, the first thing that I would do is literally change the taskbar to be left aligned. That's like the very first thing I would do. Like, that's literally step one for me. It's a lot better in Windows 11. Oh, okay. Yeah. We should keep adding these. So let's see. WSL is better. Windows 11, when you switch desktops, there is this annoying pop-up at the bottom that tells you which desktop you are on, and it comes with a 0.5 second delay, so you can spam switch desktop quickly. You mean you can or you can't? It comes with a 0.5 second delay, so you can spam switch quickly, or does that 0.5 mean you can't spam switch quickly? So you can't. Oh, you can't. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I figured. Uh, so it. Okay. So what about average everyday usage though? Like we're talking about very specific things, like WSL. That's a very niche thing. I think like I'm thinking just your average Joe using the computer, not necessarily technical. They just want to use the computer. What does Windows 11 offer the average user as a better user experience than Windows 10? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because like what I can tell you is Paint is supposedly more complicated. Like I'm using Paint in Windows 10 right now. Supposedly Paint in Windows 11 is not the same, and not in a good way from what I've been told. So that to me is a red flag, considering how often I end up using Paint. Slow Explorer? Oh, real? They updated Paint with more stuff. Okay, maybe they updated it to the point where it confuses people because they probably moved a bunch of stuff around. Notepad got an update, Windows 10, so you can hit. Oh wow, tabbed Notepad. It has tabbed Notepad, like Notepad plus plus. Is it literally like Notepad plus plus? Wow, that is a big one. That one is a big one. That one is a big one. What about CMD? Is CMD better? Is CMD any better though? Because remember how in Windows PowerShell is better? Okay, yeah, PowerShell and CMD. I think CMD is better, isn't it? I think it is. If PowerShell is better, CMD is probably better. Command prompt. Basically replaced by Windows Terminal, and I think that's mostly the same for Windows. No, I think Windows 10 still uses command prompt, but you can use PowerShell. But you're saying PowerShell is better in Windows. You can still pull up CMD by typing in command prompt. Oh, PowerShell's a new CMD. What about like PowerShell yeah, because you have PowerShell in Windows 10 though. So why would? Well, whatever. I'm just gonna leave it like that. We understand what this is referring to. It uses CMD. Okay. Oh, okay. Wait, PowerShell can have tabs? Does it have tabs? Now you gotta. Now you're making me check. Now you guys are making me check if my Windows, if my ancient Windows 10 can do these things. Yeah, no, there's no tabs in Windows 10 PowerShell. Man, that's how they try to get you to upgrade. I did not expect this stream to turn into a like why you should upgrade to Windows 11. This is turning into a like 10 reasons to upgrade video. This is turning into a 10 reasons to upgrade to Windows 11. Right click on Windows 11 is worse, but you can use a tweak to put it back to Windows 10. Oh, don't you have to click on like additional settings or additional options or something like at the bottom of the list? Like when you right click, you then click like show additional options and then it shows the original menu or something like that. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. Oh man. This stuff is the stuff that I needed to hear though, because see, like this is the sort of stuff that's making me considering actually upgrading. I might actually do the USB drive thing, like put Windows 11 on a drive and then test it, or like on a thumb drive and test it. By default, it hides half the options you probably are looking for. That is such a that sounds like such a Windows 8 thing. Yes, hide everything, but at least you're not hiding it behind a giant screen that full of screens with a bunch of pastel colored squares. Okay, so it sounds like there are some pretty good things in here though, like Tab Notepad though. That now I know you can just use Notepad++, but still, Tabbed Notepad. Man, Tab Notepad, that one's like that one carries a lot of weight. See, the thing about Notepad is you don't have to be a technical person to appreciate Tab Notepad. You know, like technical people are probably going to opt for Notepad++, but the fact that the average user can benefit from Tab Notepad for their job, for productivity, that is actually a huge win. At least in my opinion. That one right there, like looking at this list, tabs in Notepad is like by far like the number one thing that should be mentioned in a video of reasons to upgrade to Windows 11. NanaZip is greater than 7-zip. Oh wait, what is that? I don't even know what NanaZip is. Is that like a new one? Is this like a Windows one? That's a new one. Never heard of that actually. VC Code with a billion plugins. You still use plain Windows Notepad because you appreciate it being so simple. Oh, interesting. Oh, VS Code. Okay, VS Code. Yeah. That Tab Notepad though, man. That's huge. That's huge. Like the one thing they did right was this. Like they could have left PowerShell the same. Now, granted, tabs in PowerShell is really good too, but you're typically not gonna. I'm trying to think like in my mind, like when would I actually use tabs with PowerShell? I can only think of a handful of instances where that would come in handy, but this is like instantly useful all the time. So, man, that's huge. The one thing they did right, tabs in Notepad. Yeah, that number 5 though is wow. You know what? I might actually make a video about this list. this could be its own standalone video, like just going through these different things and showing examples of why to go to Windows 11. But now we've gone from hating on Windows 11 to actually like justifying its existence. So 7 reasons to go to Windows 11. Interesting. Some of these don't really mean a whole lot today, though. Like, this one doesn't carry a lot of weight. This one, depending on what your platform is, it like because number 3, that carries weight only for a specific subset of Intel users, like people who are on Rocket Lake or Skylake or Kaby Lake. Well, technically, Skylake people are not even allowed to be on Windows 11, like officially, but unofficially they can. So, but like only a specific group subset of Intel users will benefit from number 3, and then anyone who's on AMD, like that's irrelevant. So then WSL, this is a very niche thing. This is like a power user thing. This is also kind of a power user thing. This could be beneficial for a lot of people, and then like this is very beneficial. This is like somewhat beneficial. This is somewhat beneficial because you have to have a monitor. So yeah, like I'm just trying to like outline the things that actually really matter here. You can get Windows 11 Pro for pretty cheap. Yeah. You run Windows 11 on a P15, you mean P15V Gen 3? You turn off cores when I'm on. I think it turns it off automatically though, Joe. I think it will park cores when you're on battery. Every reason has nothing to do with the OS, but tiny binaries. That's a very interesting observation. You could review all the built-in Windows 10 versus Windows 11 apps. Notepad, Paint, Calculator, Clock, the most important details. Yeah, yeah. You know what? That's another really good point. Yeah, I need to write that down actually. Yeah, yeah. Like a compare like Windows 10 versus 11. That's actually what it would be. It would literally be a comparison of Notepad, Calculator, Paint. That one for me is huge, as you can imagine. The clock, that one, okay. I mean, okay. Yeah, because Windows 10 added the whole thing that shows like the weather, like the temperature outside. If you have the telemetry enabled. I think Windows 11 moved it around or something. Like they changed the way it displays, so that's actually slightly less intuitive, or less. Like you have to actually click on it or mouse over it to actually get what you're looking for. So try a VM setup for Windows 11 on the Threadripper system if you could. You could review, yeah. Okay, so this is a good idea. I like these ideas. This idea is good, and then this. Or I guess what I should do is I should mark it like this. Maybe better audio support. Oh, calendar. Yeah. Calendar CMD. The new audio menu. Oh. Are you sure to update the OS? New notepad with tabs? I mean, that one is extremely useful. Like, that one's extremely useful. That one I find shocking. Like, that they actually did something noticeable. Like, that's a noticeable improvement. That is a obvious, noticeable improvement. Okay, so yeah, wow, the whole like last third of this entire live stream turned into reasons to upgrade to Windows 11 and a comparison with every single bad OS that Microsoft created in the last 20 years. Yeah, so based off of what everybody said, like going back to my original question, like if I had to choose between Windows 11, 8, Vista, or ME for a year, the answer is pretty clear. Like if I could choose Windows 11, yeah, I would easily choose Windows 11 over any of these older ones here. So that to me seems like Windows 11 might be a pass. I mean, it might not a pass. It might have passed the test in terms of proving itself as upgrade worthy. Let's put it that way. It's now upgrade worthy. That doesn't mean that I will actually upgrade to it. It means that I will now it's like a job interview. It's like a job interview. Windows 11 has now made it to the next level, the next the next round of panelists. So Windows 11 is now actually like it's made it past the very first interview step, based off of what everyone in the chat has said. Dark mode is better. Dark mode for task manager. Dark mode for task manager? Wait, what? Really? But does it function the same though, or do they screw it up and made it not display things correctly or something, or like show you the wrong info or the something you don't want to see? You know what I mean? Like in the new task manager, do you have to click through? Do you have to do more clicks to see the things that you want to see, like the processes and the services, the running services and that sort of thing? Ain't no bragging rights and suffering to Windows 11. Only the battle-hardened warriors of ME can... ME started it all. ME is the source of the chaos. That's the core. That's like literally the core of the surf. That's like the center of everything. It's the singularity point. You can't really do much worse than that. I think it's better, but it's been a few months since you used 10. It looks more fancy in some changes. I think it looks nice. I don't know if it looks nice. See, the thing that I remember when I first watched like a review of Windows 11 back when it launched was I remember seeing the UI being like it's rounded. You know, like Windows 10, all the windows were sharp. Like they were like pointy sharp, like boxes, like squares, like rectangles. They were sharp edged. Like everything was edgy and sharp in Windows 10. Windows 11, everything's all soft and round. Like they rounded off all the corners. It's like somebody took like a fingernail. What do you call those things? Like when you cut your fingernails and then you want to like sand down the like pointy parts of the fingernail. Like it's like someone took one of those things and they just kind of like did that on like all the windows and like made everything. Yeah, they filed it down. They filed off all the pointy parts on all the windows and made everything like curved, not curved, but you know what I mean, like rounded off on the edges. I don't know if I like that look. I personally think the sharp pointy look of Windows 10 looks nicer to me. But you guys telling me like dark mode is in Task Manager and PowerShell and Notepad have tabs, like those are genuine improvements over what Windows 10 offers. The graphs in Windows 11 Task Manager look nicer than the ones in Windows 10. So Windows 10 is pretty much just like, okay, hold on, where's my, that's not it. Oh, this is Paint. Let me do another window capture here. Yeah, Task Manager. So, like, this is Windows 10 Task Manager. So, it's better than Windows 7 and Windows 8, I'll tell you that. But it doesn't have a lot. Like, it's like, this is it. Like, okay, you can see we have 2 graphics cards installed. One is an XTX, one is an Intel A770. We have 3 drives. One is a Hitachi, one is a Intel SSD 620 or something. I forgot the model number. And then the boot drive is a Samsung 960 EVO 1 terabyte, 128 gigabytes of RAM at 6400. So what I'm asking you guys is, does Windows 11 maintain all of this info? Does it maintain all of this info? Or is it like harder to get to? Windows 11 has a menu for ARGB now. Oh wait, what? Cause see how it's all sharp and pointy? So you guys are telling me that it's basically the same except it's rounded off and it can do dark mode? Interesting. ARGB. It has ARGB mode? Wait, what? Windows has an app, like a built-in app, or is that something you just download from the Windows Store? That if it's from the Windows Store, you might be able to download it and use it in Windows 10. Very interesting. So I'm just gonna note that down. I might have to look into that further, but it's like ARGB. We're almost at 10 reasons. There is a dynamic lighting menu built into Windows 11. Dynamic lighting menu. What does that do? Is that like auto brightness on the monitor? Like that's something that I would probably turn off. What does that mean? Dynamic lighting menu? Sliders? Isn't that just like brightness sliders? Because Windows 10 already has the low blue light mode, you know, like the reduces the daylight. It like changes the color scheme so that you're supposed to fall asleep. Windows 10 already has that. So I'm not sure if that's what you were asking or you were referring to. For color changing and pulse effect? Where does that show up though? Like it does that on the desktop? Oh, you mean for controlling ARGB on a computer case? Is this for the computer case? Or is this something that happens in the GUI on the OS? Like what I'm not sure what are you referring to? Color changing and pulse effect? Microsoft has a document on their dynamic lighting standard. If it is an HID lamp array, the Windows 11 can address lighting controls to it. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep that one over there. We need one more reason. We need one more reason to upgrade to Windows 11 over Windows 10. We're at 9. We're at 9. We just need one more to make it like a 10 reasons to upgrade. I kept thinking there was something with DirectX. Like I thought Microsoft had some sort of DirectX thing that they wanted to make exclusive to Windows 11, but I think they kind of backtracked on it. I mentioned that earlier. I don't know if that was still a thing or not. Let me see. 10 reasons to upgrade to Windows 11. Hold on. Where's the... Ten reasons to upgrade, so 10 major reasons. No, 9 major reasons. A more consistent interface. Let's see what they say on this site. A more consistent interface. I guess what it means is that everything looks like icons instead of like large preview mouse over tile things or that kind of stuff. Improved included apps. So this kind of goes in line with what people were talking about, like Notepad, Paint, and that kind of stuff. If Paint's actually improved. Calculator, all okay. A better screenshot tool. I remember someone was saying that when Windows 11 launched, there was no screenshot. Like, there was no snipping tool. Like, you couldn't use the snipping tool at launch on Windows 11. Like, they had to add that in at some point. Microsoft will nag you forever until you upgrade. Yeah, they've been nagging me for over a year. Like, this has been going on for over a year. And the problem is I have currently, 3 Windows 10 PCs. And all of them are having this problem. Where it's like every time there's a Windows update and I reboot the computer, it comes back with the whole, like, the big splash screen, like, free Windows 11 upgrade. I'm like, I thought I told you not to download this thing. And it's like, do you want to upgrade? Yes to begin. And I'm like, no. Decline upgrade. Are you sure? It's free. Decline upgrade, and it's so I don't know. Maybe I will have to do it though because it's one of those things where okay, hold on. Let's see what. Let's just keep going through this list. A better screenshot tool. Okay, whatever. Snap layouts for an organized desktop. Okay, they've got basically fancy zones is kind of built in now. That's what that looks like. Widgets for quick access to news, weather, and more. Yeah, but the thing is, didn't Windows 10 add this way later on in its lifespan? Twice as resistant to malware. Is that true? It's twice as resistant to malware? How is it twice? Like, that's a lot. 2 times? That's a lot. Wait, what does it actually say? According to PC Mag's lead security analyst, Windows 11 is ultra secure. Much of that is thanks to its requirement of a secure processor called a TPM, Trusted Platform Module. Despite the increased security, okay, does that really? Oh, that was the reason why people on like first gen Threadripper and Skylake for Intel couldn't, and anything older than that couldn't go to this OS. Does Windows 10 Explorer have tabs now? Let me check. No, it doesn't. No, Windows 10 Explorer does not have tabs. No. Improved multiple desktops and monitor docking. Oh yeah, the monitor docking thing, I heard that it is actually better. It's especially better if you have multiple monitors that some of them might wake up slower than others. Like you have different brand monitors. One might wake up really fast and one might wake up really slow. Supposedly, Windows 11 is a lot smarter at remembering where your apps were relative to which monitor they were on. So Windows 10 was kind of dumb in that regard. And I speak from experience saying that because my 4K Sony monitor wakes up so much slower than my left and my right monitors. And oftentimes, like if I go away and the monitors all turn off, they go to sleep, I come back to my computer, I move the mouse, and the two side monitors instantly wake up. The Sony one's still dark, and then it goes into scanning, and then it comes up, but then like oftentimes the app in whatever apps were in the middle on the middle monitor get moved and rearranged onto the left or the right. And that's super annoying. And that's something that I've had to deal with for over a year now. So if Windows 11 fixes that, this might be my number 10 actually. I might take this as the number 10. Improved multi-monitor docking. Yeah, that I think is a huge one. It's kind of a niche use case, but I think it's worth mentioning that one. Run Android apps on the PC. Wait, what? So you don't need like BlueStacks? You don't need to run BlueStacks if you have this. Is this true? You can run Android apps directly on your Windows 11 PC? Like, how good is this versus like BlueStacks emulation? Does anybody know? Whatever happened to Intel CPUs with E-cores requiring Windows 11? Is that actually an important reason? I put it on the list. It's on the list of reasons to upgrade to Windows 11. Windows 10 used to drive me crazy. Yeah, that happens to me, man. That happens to me every day. Whoa, really? Okay, you know what? That might be it. That might be the reason why I upgrade. If the monitor thing gets fixed, I'm gonna have to try it out now, though. Like, you guys are convincing me I have to at least try it. Don't they give you like 10 days? Like, if you want to do a rollback to Windows 7, as long as you're within like 7 or 10 days or something, you can do the rollback. But they annoy you because they uninstall all your apps on your main drive or some nonsense like that. Being able to run Android apps. See, this looks cool, but I don't really know if I'd ever use this. Gaming performance and HDR improvements. I mean, yes and no. The HDR, yes. The gaming performance, no. I don't think they're really that different from Windows 10 when it comes to gaming. So, yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess if you're like on an Intel 12th gen or newer, maybe, but okay. Say number 10 is going to be multi-monitor, improved multi-display, multi-monitor. You guys can't see it because I'm in the way, but like this is number 10. Just gonna leave it like that. That's it. Those are my 10 reasons. The Android apps thing is cool, but I'll never use that, to be honest. So it's like I don't really care about that. It's a cool feature though. This was the response to Apple introducing M1 chip, which allowed them to natively support iOS apps on Mac without an emulator in between. So Windows wanted to add Android to move to... Oh. But M1 came out so recently, though. Windows 11 will work good with the old Lenovo dock. The print spiller's still buggy. Huh. Okay. Well, these are 10 reasons. These are good. Well, some of these are like really good reasons, particularly the ones at the bottom. Like, I really think the second half of this list is actually really good. Like, some of these, like the dark mode. Okay, well, maybe not number 9. Number 9 is very, it's kind of like these up here. But some of these, like this one, I guess this one, I mean, I've never used NanaZip, so it's like, I don't really know how much better that is. But like this one in particular, like 5, 6, oh, and 8. Dark mode task manager, yeah, that's really good. So 5, 6, 8, and 10 are like really, really good. For some people, auto HDR. For people who have like Alder Lake or Raptor Lake, then this actually sort of is good. But I honestly think that you're still probably not going to notice the difference. But it's worth mentioning, I guess. Although this is kind of irrelevant to a lot of people who are on an older Intel CPU. And by older, I'm only talking like 11th gen or 10th gen. Or even whoever's still on like a 9900K. But yeah, like it's irrelevant to them, and it's irrelevant to anyone who's on AMD or anyone who's on like an Intel Xeon for that matter. So, because there's people that are still using Xeons as workstations too, so they're not getting any benefit from that either. So that's kind of a niche thing. This is kind of a niche thing too. Linux on Windows. So yeah, and then this is good, but this is kind of like tinfoil hat conspiracy. Like, Microsoft is really trying hard. They're desperately trying to get you to upgrade, so they're going to force you into... Like, if you want new features, you want new standards, too bad. We're not going to make them work on Windows 10. Like, that kind of thing. So, yeah. Alright, well, I guess this is a good stopping point for the live stream. This is a good idea for a video though. 10 reasons to upgrade to Windows 11. I'm gonna have to save this as like a screenshot or like an image because this is a good one. Does Windows 10 Task Manager have a search in the process list? Let me see. No, it doesn't. There's no search. There's no search at all in the Task Manager on Windows 10. So yeah, I mean that's okay. Searching, okay. Well, that goes in with the dark mode task manager because it's just straight up improved task manager. So that's a good stopping point. Once again, thank you all for watching. I did not expect this to turn into a Windows memory lane thing with the curse of ME. But this is kind of how a lot of these streams go. For those that are new to the channel, I do live streams typically at the end of every weekday, usually Thursday. Usually Thursday is the day that you can expect me to be live to interact with my subscribers, viewers, etc. And then sometimes I'll do Friday. In the case of today, I did today because I typically do a This Week in Tech weekly every Thursday, but because I did the Threadripper PC live, I did the Threadripper build live yesterday, I had to move this stream to today. So, anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this stream. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.